Yes.
But it took a while. She was on autopilot there.
Who's on autopilot?
Oh, there's a woman who's been here before on,
Susan Connolly from Mass.
Oh, yeah?
got off her autopilot. She,
There we go, excellent. Good evening, Winchester. Welcome to the December 11th Planning Board meeting.
I guess I should wait.
On our agenda today, we have we're already late. What do you know? We have a continuation of a hearing of a subdivision off of Highland Ave. That'll be going on we've scheduled an hour for that. And then we have a number of special permits. And then we're going to be talking about the planning board budget. And then we will be adjourning. So the first order of business, I believe, is, unless we have anything else you want to comment on. Doesn't say planner's notes, but we usually give you a few moments to say something of import.
I think we can get right into it, to be honest.
Okay, cool. So why don't we open the hearing, or continue the hearing on Highland Ave? And why don't you bring us up to speed on what's happened? Because
Sure, so there are some new things in your packet that at the table that we just got today. You should have it right in front of you.
Oh, this is yours.
So there are a number of things in here that, there's probably only one thing that you've seen in here, which is the Design Review Committee notes regarding Highland Ave from November 14th. So these got sent a long time ago, right when they got written, but printed those off. So these are, 5 things related to Highland Ave subdivision. If you're looking at, it's this one with the town seal on the top. It's saying trees will be preserved, trees that will be preserved should be shown on the clearing and grubbing plan. There's some relief related to the front setback, which we wouldn't talk about at the moment. It was recommended to move a proposed tree in the front yard closer to Highland Ave to create a defined tree canopy along the street. And a little bit on where some specific bushes would be, and then a lighting plan. So that's everything from design review. There are basically 3 kind of talking points tonight that are still needed to get flushed out. One is related to the drainage, and we'll get a little bit more of that from Beth when the time comes. But basically VHB and the applicant have been conversing about potential options in order to contain the water on the site and or direct it to the stormwater infrastructure. So one is the drainage analysis. The other is the homeowners association document. That is a document that this was just an exchange of emails today.
Yeah.
So this was from legal counsel that basically said that they needed more than 18 hours to review the homeowners association document, and that that council will get back to us within a few days in order they had some concerns related to some of the provisions that were located in the draft HOA given by the applicant. So that's the second issue. We have drainage analysis, homeowners association, and then even somewhat related to the drainage analysis is the money that's associated with paying VHB. So there was the contract and the scope for VHB to review the all of the drainage was because this was a town venture. It was a joint venture between the town and the applicant. So that's why we got an outside drainage consultant. The scope was pretty defined. I believe it was 2 reviews. But then throughout the process, it just ended up being more reviews that were necessary by VHB. So they've been doing work, and to put it bluntly, they need more money. So that's one thing that we need. That's a kind of a minor thing. It's just something that we would need to authorize. I mean, we would have to authorize, at this point, it would be for 53G to make the applicant pay for the rest of that. And those are the kind of the three major conversations. Most of the work that has happened in the past month, almost all of it is, I would say, 75% of it is minor that they have agreed to, and maybe 20 to 25% have been kind of this back and forth where an option is given to the applicant by VHB, and then multiple options are given back from the applicant, and then it's just this constant conversation. So because of that, they've gone through more hours. So that's something that we would need to talk about. The biggest thing at the moment clearly is the drainage analysis that we've been still going back. I mean, so the VHB gave a memo today, and that's also in your packet. It was given to me today at 5 something. Simply because there had been back and forth even today. So that's where we are at the moment. The largest issue is finalizing some drainage infrastructure. Beth should speak to that first. I believe that's kind of the bigger issue, and then the other two issues with the homeowners association and the money associated with the increased amount of reviews are less important, but still important, but less important than the drainage infrastructure.
So there's plans in these letters dated today, right? Today's the
Correct.
11th.
They are dated today.
Where are these plans?
I was hoping there'd be paper copies. Okay, so I have them here, revised December 11th. I sent them to the board the second I got them. I guess there are paper copies as well, but yes, we got them today.
And then I just don't want to lose track of this stuff because it's, I don't know, it's where I fall in this. It's this design review stuff, which the light fixtures, the trees that we want to have identified. I don't know if that's going to be in the new submittal, but I just want to list these things that we're going to want to look at. The DRC recommended 2 street trees on Highland Ave, a mix of better buffer of evergreen trees along the north edge with the neighbors of others. And we want to make sure that if these lots get sold, that we end up retaining that buffer in the rear setbacks. So I think that has to go somewhere in language we've got.
Well, if you're talking about landscaping, then yes, that would be in.
Landscaping's different,
Well, if you're talking about distance between.
Well, if we're going to grant a reduction in the front setback.
We are not.
Oh, okay.
We
So
can't.
we're not. Okay,
So that was actually more directed to
Yeah.
ZBA.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, then, the question's how to make sure that we retain the rear setback is if this project's sold, that the lots maintain that rear setback.
We could.
I don't want this just to go off into the ether.
Yeah, I mean, well, there could be a condition that allows for more, but we could do a condition that doesn't require a waiver, meaning we can't say you have to have the front setback too small.
Correct.
What we could say is that you could have the rear setback be X, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that there would be any reason that
Well,
that would be a
before we
problem.
vote, I want to make sure that's locked in, so I don't know how we do that.
No, we'd have to craft that language. and
We'd
make
have
sure
to
it was
craft
in.
that language, and to be honest, I'm sitting here and I'm staring at a whole bunch of question marks. So,
Well, I think we should start with the drainage.
Let's
I
start with the
think,
drainage.
Beth could give a quick recap, and we start there.
I mean, yeah, because let's start with the drainage and move directly then to the HOA, which I now know stands for Homeowners Association, not High Occupancy Aircraft. I'm like, what the heck
We would
is
be
it?
in big trouble if that's what
I
we
know, I know.
I know, HOA, what the heck's an
Definitely.
HOA? Okay,
So I'm not.
So I
sure-
could bring up maybe the VHB memo.
Beth, have you seen these plans from today?
So I have not seen.
This is the
like, a
VHB memo.
Final, this is what Luke sent out.
That's
like,
Luke just sent that at 5:11 or 5:20.
So, there's been a lot of back and forth in the past 48 hours about options for the drainage along Highland Ave. Our concern and VHB's concern, and maybe if you just want to go to the drainage sheet.
Could we get those paper copies, please?
Yeah.
Craig, could we get those? My eyesight is not getting any better.
So,
It's really good.
I know, it's the fly specs that
grading.
are the right grading.
The grading.
the ones
Is
with
there
the
just the one
color.
copy,
Love
or is
chocolate
there
chip, they can't
multiple?
do that.
There's just
The
one
grading
copy.
plan, Brian.
I have a half-size
Sorry.
set if you want that.
I don't know if it's in this set, it might be
It's a
separate.
grading plan, I don't know,
Well,
it shows the most recent
I'm
information.
not sure how
This is
well.
the grading plan.
Yeah, so, one of the concerns that VHB raised during their review was,
Which page
so
is
as
this?
The grading.
what happens
sorry.
today under
Sorry.
very high flow conditions.
Sorry, just a sec. It's the grading plan, and it's called
Okay.
C4.
C4.
If you could just zoom out so it's a little bit. So, this, where's 22 Highland? This is the existing building for 22 Highland Ave. And the town has a head wall, I think is right here. So what happens today is when the reservoir is high, and we get a lot of rain, the Sawmill Brook, which is dry probably half the time and flows some mostly little amount most of the time, but when there's runoff coming from overtopping from North Reservoir, it gets much bigger, so we get water that flows down. And under normal conditions, it goes into this is a head wall that that's right here, and then there's a drainage pipe, a town-owned drainage pipe that goes through here and goes out into Highland Ave. There's a culvert under Highland Ave. This is 22 Highland here. It's hard to see. Under very high flow conditions, all that water can't go into the head wall, and so it backs up and it overtops and it flows through the 22 Highland Ave property, and it comes out somewhere down here, somewhere through here, and it flows down Highland Ave and ultimately across Highland Ave. So the concern, and we've all seen that very high flow flooding condition over the years, the concern has always been, the town is doing some drainage improvements out here. We are mitigating for up to and including the 25-year storm event. So anything above the 25-year storm event, there will still be some overtopping of this system. If we were to make improvements to include the beyond the up to the 100-year storm event, it was like $1 million project and involved drainage improvements all the way down to the Apperton River. So the town, back in 2011, 2012, when we had this original study done, made the decision to do the slightly lower cost, a little bit less, there's still some impacts during these very large storm events. So like a 50 and 100-year storm event, you could still potentially see, depending on where the reservoir is to start with. So we're talking about those level of storm events here. So the applicant has installed like a 15-inch drain pipe that goes here and ties into the town's drainage system. But for the 25-year storm event, there'll be no flooding of the road. But once we get past that, we'll have some overtopping of this drain pipe. And so what we've been working with the applicant is figuring out where that flow can go so that it doesn't. Our concern was, as they had it originally designed, that it was going to flow down the road and it was going to go potentially go across the street and impact the houses across the street on Highland Ave. So there's been a lot of back and forth over the past, like I said, 48 hours about how to design that. So we've basically come up with kind of a low point in the road here where when it gets high enough, it will overtop and flow through the corner of this lot 1 across the sidewalk into a swale that's been graded out here in the grass strip. And that swale won't contain the full 100-year flows, but I think it's reasonable to expect some flooding of Highland Ave during a 100-year storm event. So we feel, VHB and I feel like this is an adequate solution. And then the applicant has added some additional small berm on the opposite side of the street to keep those flows from crossing into those properties.
On the opposite side of the street, is there, I can't remember, is there a sidewalk or is it just the right?
Yeah, so there's a grass strip and a sidewalk on both. There's grass strip and sidewalk on both sides of Highland Ave in this area.
Berm would be where?
In the grass strip. It's just kind of a little hump in raising the grass strip a little bit. So we're recommending, VHB is recommending the applicant install a new curb in this area to help with that, and then this swale. And so I haven't seen like the final plan set with this information. I haven't looked at this exact plan. I think there's been you know, snippets that have been circulated by the applicant, and VHB has looked at it, but we haven't seen the full plan set like you have on your table now. So. So that's kind of where we stand with the drainage. And VHB, I think in the letter that they issued at 5:30 tonight, they had talked to the applicant late afternoon today and were satisfied with the design that had been proposed.
I know, because I gotta say, you know, because I sort of live up in that general neck of the woods. And I have to tell you, I mean, it does concern me because the population up there is so much denser than it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many more homes.
So there's no question that the road, that there's still gonna continue to be water flowing in the road, whether this development goes forward or not. Like, that's not,
Oh,
this
yeah,
development has
yeah.
nothing to do with that. What we're trying to make sure is that we don't push that water across the street to
Yeah,
those
yeah,
houses
yeah,
on the
yeah,
other
yeah.
side of Howland Ave, that we keep it
I'm with you. I'm
kind
with
of
you.
where it has always gone today.
But 25, those of us who've remembered Winchester High School getting shut down for months after a 100-year, right? And then there were like three, I don't know, how many years separated the two times it was shut down. But I know 25 might sound reasonable.
Right, so
but
that it is
25
contained for the 25-year storm.
Right,
So
right, no, I
it's
hear you, but-
above that. So, I mean, it's
Fearing
a,
that we're going to see a lot of
so
flooding.
that's a decision that was made irrespective of this project by the town many years ago in terms of how we were going to.
The town, was that the planning board?
No, it's
No.
town manager,
Town
engineering,
managers
DPW.
changed, But why
Well, the
Well-
project's already been funded at fall town meeting this year, so we're sort of,
Yeah.
um,
So,
stuck with 25-year, oh golly.
So, I'm trying to, in 20 seconds, wend my way through this VHB memorandum, which is impossible.
Right.
And I'm just going to skip right to the end, because I'm ignorant of a few of the things that the planning board is being asked to consider. In particular, where it says, "We respectfully defer to the planning for determination on this item," and I have no idea what this item actually means.
which number are you looking at?
So let's look at comment number,
What's at the last page, right?
yeah, we're on the last page. Let's go to comment number 14. Applicant's request for relief from TSS removal requirements. Can you define what that is?
So there's a small section of the roadway, there's a catch basin at the very end of the road near, lot 1.
okay, thank you.
It's actually.
Oh, here, right?
No, in the road
Oh, sorry.
further up, yeah.
Do.
Yeah, right there. So there's a portion of the drainage, and actually this may have sort of been addressed by the regrading that had to be done for this swale, but there was a small portion of their road that was discharging into Highland Ave, without, like, discharging into a deep some catch basin, which is, kind of part of the whole, mass stormwater policy. So we all felt like it was such a small area that we weren't concerned with that small amount that was running off of their site into the town's road.
So what does TSS stand for?
TSS is total suspended solids. So the Mass Stormwater Handbook has an 80% TSS removal requirement, which they are meeting for the rest of the site. It's just that very small portion at the end of the road that is not meeting that standard.
Okay, and so you agree with VHB's taking no exception?
Yeah, we were, again, we've discussed all of these comments pretty much with VHB over the past month or so, and we weren't concerned with that. with
Okay.
everyone.
So the Concom is hopefully going to chime in on number 31. I have no idea what NAVD 1988 is as a planned datum. And you were supposed to be, they're deferring to us.
Yeah,
So-
and that's what the standard is that we use, is it's the vertical datum by which they do the survey.
And why is this even coming in as a
I think
comment?
there might be something written in one of the regulations, you'd have to go back in their comment, or to their original comment, but I think there's
The
something written
wetlands
that.
bylaw, potentially, or?
Yeah, that, the town of Winchester also has a datum, which at this point is, nobody uses, everybody uses the NAVD 88, because that's the datum that the
So
FEMA maps are
this,
based on.
so a planned datum is a fiducial elevation?
Right, so it's like how you determine zero based
Okay.
on, and where all your grading comes from. So there's like
Okay.
a 5.27 foot difference, I think, between
Okay.
an AVD 88 and town of Winchester Down.
As long as we get all distances relatively correct, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
as a standard, and I don't know where that was written, but it should be changed, because we as a standard no longer use the town of Winchester datum, we always use an AVD 88.
Okay.
Because that's what the FEMA maps are based on, so.
Okay.
okay.
So, the lot one of the subdivision, I'm assuming is still called lot one, although it's
Yeah.
not titled on this. We are worried about, on the other side of Highland, those houses, and we're worried about down. What about that, the corner of that house?
So the grades are such that the water that flows to that property won't impact the house, and
If the grades are done right.
right, I mean,
According to
if
plan,
they're
yeah.
done according to what's shown on the plan, yeah.
Percentages,
And the
right.
wall, the other concern was the impact of the wall, and I think the way it's graded is that, we all feel comfortable that.
So,
So
how-
once that's sold and someone lives there, how do you make sure that it stays graded the way that you need it to?
Well, there is, a drainage easement through that property, through that portion, I think it covers that section, so.
And they would know
okay.
that when they bought the property?
Well, they will know that there's a drainage easement, but there could be some language added either to the plan or to the drainage easement that says that they can't modify the grades in that area. That's a good point.
Yeah, I
Is-
think
is
I
this-
think that would be a very good idea,
Yeah.
because, you know, I don't expect a homeowner necessarily to be able to come in and digest that. I mean, I happen to be married to an engineer, so I know he would get it.
Sure.
But I can think that a lot of other people who are non-professionals.
But I didn't know if it was even written anywhere when you buy the
Yeah.
property.
No, that's a good point, that
Yeah.
you're right, it should be.
is this,
included in
does this
something.
go into the homeowners
It could be,
association?
certainly, yeah.
Just no regrading of any areas that are associated with any drainage easement, but.
Well, we'd have to look at I think, is that the drainage easement that's shown on there, that?
Yeah, We
dashed
just have to
line?
make
So
sure
what-
that the
We can come up with some
description is
language
clear.
about no regrading of that front area.
So when you say that there's no impact to the house, how close to the house does the water actually get? And if we're looking at a 50 or 100-year flood,
100-year.
are we going to get water in their basement?
Underwater.
I defer to the applicant, and I haven't done that level of analysis, I defer to the applicant. I mean, the house doesn't have to be built the way it's shown here, right? You guys aren't approving the location of the houses as
That's
part
true.
of this.
Right, but we are approving the concept of having houses that aren't affected by 50-year.
Sure, yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, so that's an analysis you haven't done. Why don't we finish up with the town engineer first, because we've got our expertise in front of us. You know, again, trying to parse this thing, I believe I understood you to say that you are okay with the current plan? And VHB is as well?
VHB reviewed it. I did not review the most final plan this afternoon because I was in a meeting, but VHB reviewed it, and we've discussed at length over the past few days, so I think we were all on the same page as to where we
Have
wanted
you
to go.
discussed this, but Michael, I'm concerned that the final plan that arrived this afternoon, I want to make sure there are no substantive changes which haven't been reviewed. So what you've discussed over the last several days, is that encompassed by the final plan which we have before us?
So, again, I was in meetings all afternoon. I did not review the
Right.
final plan that came in at 4 PM. VHB reviewed it and issued this letter at 5:30 tonight.
Right, so you haven't seen the final plan, so you can't comment on anything other than,
The final
VHB?
plan was,
What's-
yeah,
Yeah,
I have
okay.
not reviewed it myself. I'm comfortable that VHB has reviewed it and it's in line with what we were asking to be
Okay.
done. And we, so,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to get my
sure.
ducks in a row.
No,
I shouldn't
they
say
are-
ducks when we talk
No,
about
I mean,
flooding.
we're all looking
but-
at brand new stuff and
Right.
asking for
Yeah.
opinions on things that
Right.
we haven't even really had time to
Yeah.
Yeah,
sit and look at, which is, I don't think the right way to make a decision in
agree.
any way, but I do think it's good to get an update on where we stand on everything from that, where we stand on the items you pointed out from design review, and go through that process, if that is acceptable to the planning board at this point, because
Yep.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch, I
to
caught.
just go through on an update on where everything is.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Go to the hearing and postpone it to the next, we have time to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes sense is, for the applicant to explain everything that's changed in these plans as opposed to the ones that we saw last month. I think that's a good exercise to go through. The HOA, I mean.
I would like to see it.
Legal
actually.
counsel is essentially saying, we would love to review it, we need time to review it.
Yeah,
I wanna
and we
review it
should-
too.
Yeah, and we should.
I want to see it as well to make sure that, for instance, we get the language that Heather discussed about
Right.
Grading.
Well, there's a-
maintaining
yeah,
grading in that.
Exactly. The
Gotta
devil
go
is
in
in the
somewhere.
details, and that's where a lot of it is.
And I note that there was one of the things I caught looking at the subdivisions about, who was going to deal with the storm management and to make sure there was money in the kitty to pay for it. And I want to make sure that's in the HOA as well.
Yeah, that should be a condition.
Yeah, so shall we just move on to the HOA, which is, I think, next on your list of important things?
Yeah, I think it's up to the board on when, you would want, like I said, the applicant to come and explain the changes that have been, to explain the changes, because with this plan set, it's not every page has been changed, but I think it'd be a good exercise to go through all the things that were changed.
No, but even the things that are changed aren't bubbled. Usually when you resubmit a new, you bubble everything that's been changed. So
So you can easily
you can have them
identify.
go through it, but at the same time, we have the ginormous set, and we have it up there, and I don't think it's, for me to go through it, the way that I would like to go through it, it's not fair to the planning board to sit and wait for me to go sit and flip through all these big pages.
Agreed.
Table.
What I'm saying is, I'm talking about 3 to 5 minutes
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
of-
yeah.
of
No,
him
I think that's
of
a good
explaining
thing.
what the work that has been
Yeah.
done outside of the
I
drainage,
just want
which is-
expectations of where I'm
Yeah,
standing, just to be very
I
clear.
think if we move through the three items you discussed, and then we bring the applicant forward to give a impromptu presentation on what's changed,
Well, it'll move us forward.
so I think, if there are no more questions on the drainage until we've had a chance to review these more, I think we can ask Beth to step away.
you, Beth.
I
Thank you,
hate
Beth.
to- well, sorry, I'd like to wrap this up, but I'm suddenly, maybe I've been missing in action here, but I'm focusing on the properties across Highland Avenue and the potential impact on them. I'm not sure what's going on with their, you're talking about a buffer, that sounds good, maybe it's all fine, but I would love to just see a larger plan that shows me where the houses are across the street.
Yeah,
And
so-
what's I don't know if I would do very well with the topo anyway, but at least have somebody interpret if it spills over the little buffer that's going to be on the edge of the grass, we get the 100-year storm,
What does that mean?
what's happening and
What's
where are the
been
houses
proposed
located?
prevents that from happening, even in the 100-year storm.
100-year.
And who maintains that bump?
It'll just be a grassed, small
Swale.
Berm.
bump,
Yeah, but-
berm. I mean,
and-
not even, berm is
And,
really,
on whose property is this?
Town-
in the
it
town.
would be on the grass
Right
strip,
of way across the
within
street.
the within the right of way, so
Right.
not
So
paved
the
surface. but
swale,
within the
so
right of way.
on the subdivision side, there's a small swale being proposed in the grass strip, and on the opposite side of Highland,
If
there's a
these,
small.
I know it's our right of way, but have the owners been notified of this?
No, I mean, it's the town property.
Because
No, it is.
they're the ones who are really
No, I hear you. I
realistically
get it,
going to
but-
be maintaining it.
Right.
The town doesn't go around and mow
It's a
them.
grass swale, I mean, it's a grass berm, so once it's,
Right, but suddenly the town,
Degraded
the
and-
planning board said it's, I just am thinking, whoa, wait a minute, folks. They do perceive it, as DM said, as their, I know, legally, no issues, but really, just suddenly have this as part of our agreement, that they're gonna get these little bumps in front. And, by the way, don't go out there and start whatever, planting your
Leveling it out.
daylilies, and suddenly it's gone down 4 more inches. Maybe the daylilies would help, I don't know, but, it just strikes me as something where it's kind of, that berm is going to be doing a really important job.
And they don't know it.
Right.
And how tall is this? I have no idea. How
Yeah,
big is
right.
this?
I think it was.
No criticism, by the way, it's just like, I
Craig, to
feel
be
like I'm
honest, what the
representing a
final
community.
plan
Okay,
showed
well,
in terms of
when
height.
Craig comes forward, we'll ask him that question. Okay, so enough at the moment for stormwater management. Let's move on to the protective covenant.
But
So-
why are we talking about this if we haven't seen it? and
Right,
our
so
consultant-
what I was gonna say was,
Wait.
what I was gonna
I
say was
just
that.
want to get an update on what the story is.
Sure, so I don't have so, in the email, Art basically just said, I have some issues with some of the provisions of the HOA. I will give you a more fully, full-blown review, soon. So to be honest, I don't even know what his issues are with the
Right, right.
HOA.
That's okay, we don't expect you to. No,
Okay,
it's just
the
you have
key,
to.
the key thing here is the last part and the last bit from Art, which says, "I'll leave it to the board whether to grant subdivision approval conditioned on execution of a satisfactory HOA document." So if the board is okay trusting Art without seeing it, then he can go forward, else,
Well, that's not
It's-
it.
yeah,
It's-
no.
That's not the point. I mean, I think the real point is that we have the responsibility for basically approving it, so that's what we're supposed to be doing, yes?
Yeah.
Yes,
no,
yes,
So, I mean,
So, and I think that if we don't have a clear idea of what's cooking,
Right, right,
I think that's a real
I
problem.
do too.
oh, yeah.
Art doesn't even know where we stand on anything.
Yeah, and he doesn't,
He isn't.
I'm merely saying that, we do have the option of trusting Art, which we of
yeah,
course do.
it's not a
That's not
trusting,
it.
it's not a trusting thing. I mean, basically what he's saying is that legally, we could have a decision tonight with one of the many conditions being, approval conditioned upon the execution of a satisfactory HOA document.
Right,
Or, so that's legally possible. What
Right.
he's also saying by saying this, what he's also saying is that if we wait if he can review it, and then we can see exactly what it is
Yeah,
and
yeah.
vote the whole thing in
Right.
as part of, not as a condition, but just say, the condition would be, here's the HOA.
Done is done,
Right.
No, it's not.
We have him at our next meeting.
our next meeting
Can we
has to
have-
be
Well,
scheduled.
if we do,
On the
yeah.
7th, well, so our next
Right.
meeting is on Monday, the 17th.
Right.
I don't know if he's available.
And I don't know that we actually have time on the agenda for Art.
Right.
No, I mean
Well, no,
him
he's-
present
For
during
this.
So
this.
he's talking about this. I mean,
I'm talking about
But
this too. It's-
speaking of trust, I guess my feeling is I would like him to be doing it before we approve it.
Yeah.
I do trust him actually a lot. If he's comfortable with it, then I'll feel that I'm.
yeah, that was not the
I
issue.
would like the work.
Yeah, I used the wrong word. I will
So,
take the
okay,
word
it's okay.
back.
If we were to move this to our, and I'm, by the way, hoping to get, we've got options for January, but we don't have a commitment finally. I guess the 8th is a firm date, and after that, it's options, but.
well, the 8th is, so the 8th is the last day that we can render a decision,
January,
January 8th.
Okay.
well, except that if we were to say, well, we deny if we don't have everything in line, so it's not that.
No, I'm just saying a decision,
Right,
so
the
our
days, right,
we have a
we'll
90,
an extension,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
all. Right,
Well, no, the only way we could get an extension is if the applicant
I
would
understand.
agree to that.
exactly, and
Um,
that is very common, and I've certainly lived through many.
But yeah, it happens to be so January 8th is the 90-day mark from the time of application, which
okay.
means we have to have not a decision filed, a decision rendered.
Right.
So we need to have a vote on, the 8th is the drop dead date.
You keep saying that, unless the applicant wishes to extend.
Correct.
Right, and we have the opportunity to say, this is not finished, it's done. So-
We do. Why don't we're gonna get to that discussion, I think, in a bit. So why don't we move forward? And, I mean, I'm hoping we will get to that discussion in the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, so we don't have anything really to say on the
On the
HOA
HOA.
because no one's seen it.
Deferring to Art at the moment.
I
At-
think
at
there's
the moment-
consensus that we want to see it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, well,
the mood of the board is that we want to see it
Approved by our,
before-
recommended by our.
before, in any ways, just to make sure that the things that we think are important are in there.
Right.
So there's that on the HOA, and then the last thing,
Oh, yeah, last thing on the HOA was that typically, so Beth and I looked at previous subdivisions, and usually the HOA is baked already. It's not usually a condition
Right.
based upon the subject
Exactly
of a written HOA. It's, here's the condition is, look at exhibit
Looks like Exhibit
A,
A, there's
here's the
HOA.
homeowners association agreement, sorry.
Correct, thank you.
So that would be what's typical of what the board has done in the past.
Yeah,
I would, okay, yes.
yes.
So
That's sort of
there's
what
that.
it is.
And then the last thing that I believe that you said we should look at would be the extension of the 53G.
Yeah, so Beth, I'm not sure exactly how much money, it was somewhere in the 5 to 6 range in terms of how much money.
thought he would give you a number.
Yeah, I can look at that real quick.
Is this for services
Already
already
done,
rendered?
already done,
Okay.
yes.
So we
Uh,
don't anticipate any further work from VHB?
I think at this point, we're finally okay.
Yeah, unless the board has concerns with what has been,
Okay, but as,
So as discussed, yeah.
I
okay,
think what the letter that came out today would be their final review.
okay.
So I can obviously get, you know, a very specific number. There could be a vote. I don't think the vote needs to specifically say exactly how much money. I think it would be
Yeah.
to cover it would be to cover the cost of services already rendered.
Yeah,
Why would they have continued working if they'd exceeded their contract amount?
This is a good question.
We'll have to do-
because they like
So-
doing business with the town.
Well, yeah, the work needed to be done. They probably should have been more forthcoming with their schedule in terms of their, where they were in terms of the money. But the scope was very clear in terms of the original scope, in terms of how much review they were supposed to be doing. And in the past 2 weeks, there's been significant work.
If there's scope creep, usually you flag that and you ask for more money before you.
You are correct. You are right. I can't defend it.
Well, you can't explain it. Is it-
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know
cannot
that it's a
explain
negative.
why they didn't say, we have reached it, we're not doing any more work until we are authorized to have more money.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't explain why they didn't do that. Anyway.
We shouldn't be in this position with our 53G money, but that's.
Well, it's not I mean,
well,
it's not,
it's something that in the future, I think we would be more comfortable if it didn't happen.
oh, completely.
But I'm not saying VHB didn't do,
The work needed to get done. It was
Work-
that they didn't alert us fast enough. The thing is, at that time, it's not like we didn't have it's not like the board could have even voted the money at the time
we
based
could,
upon our meeting schedule. Meaning a lot of work happened in a very condensed amount of time.
right, but the board, yeah, so in the future, let's try to make sure the board is notified so that the contractor doesn't work beyond their budget.
Yep.
So that
Yeah,
we
if
can,
there's scope creep, they would say, we need to stop work, and then we
And
would
then
wait
we-
for another planning board meeting, and then we would get approval.
I agree 100%.
yeah,
But
I
I mean,
mean,
you're saying it was so rushed,
yeah,
that's
Which-
like
which
forcing
al-
us
which
to
always-
talk about it
right.
tonight, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't have to do that work this week
No.
if we hadn't voted to give
It's-
them more money.
Which always makes me
mean-
nervous, frankly, you know.
I'm, personally, I'm glad they did the work. It shows that they have, they want to do the job. But in terms of
No.
the controls issue, I am concerned.
Beth and I were concerned as well.
Yeah, so,
There you
I,
go.
I think we should take a vote on whatever the wording should be in terms of authorizing I don't know what the wording should be. Can you come up with the right wording? Dan?
It would be to use 53G in order to cover the to make the applicant pay to cover the costs of the work that was performed as part of the subdivision review. I mean, it's kind of this weird situation where, because there was a lot of this back and forth, it caused more money to be spent.
Yeah,
Basically what happened is, engineering and VHB had a number of ideas and recommendations. The applicant took those in and came up with other options that could satisfy the same requirements. And then VHB had to review those multiple options to see whether or not they actually did do what the applicant said.
What they were purporting to do.
So it was this, I wouldn't say cat and mouse, it was more of just, in order to get the work done, there needed, you either agree to what VHB says or you don't, and that's what happened. VHB easily could have just said, like Heather said, VHB is like, we're not doing this anymore, and
No.
they could have just stopped it immediately. They, for whatever reason, didn't want to be aggressive in that way and didn't do that. I think it was a mistake. Beth and I agree that it should have been a little more forthright. Or-
He's actually a real person, so I hope you have that conversation.
Yeah, no, I talked with him specifically
Mhm.
and said that this was not really what we had anticipated. Meaning that, sure, if more work needs to happen, that's fine, but it's more of like, here's the bill, and we're like,
It doesn't work this way.
yeah,
Usually like, okay, we've hit our number of hours.
like I said, you're,
Okay.
you're
Or it
100%
looks like, or
right.
it looks like, or it looks like
Okay.
we're gonna blow through our hours.
So
you know.
I think we've all indicated our disapproval of what's happened, so now we have to vote to approve 53G funds to cover the, you had really good money.
Review, just a review.
Approve 53 funds to cover the cost of services rendered.
The service which have already been, these are not new services.
Right, to cover the costs of,
Review.
the cost of review that,
Additional review time?
that has already happened.
Yeah, that's the key. I want to make sure it says
Already occurred.
additional review that has already happened, over and above, well,
Over and
is there,
above the initial contract,
It's just a-
yeah, is over and above not redundant?
no,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
the
You say
initial,
the cost of additional reviews that have already happened outside of the original scope.
Yep.
okay,
Perfect.
you've got
That's
that?
fine.
Yep.
Okay, so,
So move.
do I have a second?
Speak,
Second.
Betsy.
Betsy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've got 5-0 on that.
Yep.
Okay, so that was, I think, all we have to talk about in terms of the
Right, so
list.
the HOA, we're basically waiting for art,
Yeah,
and I still would like the applicant to explain what has happened
Yes.
since the last meeting.
yeah.
And so who, but before we get to that, who actually does review, so you're not looking to me or Heather, anybody, to actually see about how responses, I mean, I would like the staff, frankly, to say, I've looked at the plan, I know it came in at 5:30, so we're not quite there where we
Right.
should be, but have you had a chance to go over the, you know, the trees, the light fixtures? Somewhere in here is it written, I got a cut sheet, but, about the dry laid stone wall 4 feet in height. I mean, I've got all this miscellaneous stuff, but who's actually pulling it all together?
So, I had asked for this very reason, I had asked for us to have just one document, you know, one PDF with everything in it, because, to be frank, there's been a lot of different versions of a lot of different plans, and it's messy in terms of how many different
Well, that's
ones, yeah.
I don't
So
wanna
that's why I was
be-
like,
I don't
we
wanna
just,
be responsible.
right, well, it was more, we need one PDF to look at,
Mhm.
and do a full review. We got that today.
Mhm.
All right, so
Okay.
who is part of this review team, I think is what Maureen's
Right.
getting at.
Engineering and planning.
Okay,
And so you have been accumulating all the design review and,
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, great,
Okay.
good.
so,
Oh, it hasn't been reviewed for that.
right,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because before
just-
we put our imprimatur on it, I'd wanna
Yeah,
know that it was
I
complete.
just wanted to reiterate that
Yeah.
it has not been reviewed.
Mhm.
Well, so, I mean, no, this entire set has not been reviewed to a degree where I'm looking at every single page. I mean, like I said, we just,
Right.
No, I know.
Yeah.
nearly all the work that has been done, though, has been related to the drainage. And there has not been much work done, like, most of these plans, you've seen them before.
yes,
However, I have not double-checked that there haven't been any
But
changes
she's
in.
asking about a list of design things that we're
Right, the
trying to like
lighting, the
remember.
trees, the
Yeah,
stone
So-
wall. and-
So
That's
we-
just the minutes of the, yeah, so that's, so,
Do you
stone,
have it? Are you creating some, I mean, I would love a matrix that.
Yeah, they just
some
had, they just had a
spreadsheet.
list of the items and,
Check,
Like
check,
yes
check.
or no.
Yeah.
I guess
well, I
we're,
think, so what you mean whether everything that has been incorporated from all of our meetings, design review and historical
Yeah.
Yes, the
commission?
list of
Yeah, so
items.
that,
All the
yes, that
reviews?
is, that has not happened, so to be
Okay.
very clear, no.
But
okay.
it's
Okay.
good to make a checklist, so
Yeah,
that we know,
so-
okay.
Yeah, I
by-
mean,
Make
it's,
sure.
so everyone here has the historical commission and the design review comments.
But
They're-
I'm like you, it's like.
I have like 500
Hello,
pages.
this is
I know.
my day job.
so I think what we're looking for is a final document which indicates all of the different concerns that have been expressed and indicates whether or not these plans, the complete package addresses those. And so sort of an organized checklist going through and saying, okay, here's what the DRC said, and here's where we can check off on the application that it's been dealt with.
Right, or
Because
something, you know.
we're seeing, a zillion different details, and we don't know how it matches onto the plan. So we're just looking for a final package like that.
And has the Board of Health chimed in at all?
Yes, they have. They had a minor comment.
So you add that into your list of.
Yeah, no, that's already in my potential list of conditions.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
It had to do with getting a fill permit for when no
Right.
issues is the
Right.
short answer.
So we know that Concom has been asked to do stuff, at least from VHB. Obviously, the DRC has given us comments, and you've gotten comments from, well, you're gonna get more comments from us, but you already have comments from us. Okay, so we have an assurance that such a checklist will be created.
And I want
Perfect.
to add to that, I don't know how, I know it's not legally required, but I want somebody to let these people know across Highland that there's a condition now that we're contemplating that will be in the town's property. It has to be really clear, it is the town's property, but they should be aware that it's as a result of the
Yeah,
project on Highland, 20, at, where,
Yeah, that's a
20
proposed
Highland?
project.
I would say just, it would coordinate with the western side of Highland Ave.
Mhm, Yep.
okay. So are we ready to have the applicant come forward and tell us what's changed? Everybody okay with that? Okay, so Mr. Miller, you want to come up?
Want to work to a time?
Yeah.
We have our timer,
Pardon?
our timer.
Our timer, yeah. So why don't we
According to my
Why don't
watch.
we do this? So I'd like to have at least 10 minutes to discuss, for the board to discuss. We started a bit late this evening, about 5 minutes late, so Mr. Miller, you think you can get through this in about 7 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we'll give you 7 minutes, and then hopefully that timer works today.
Let me go back to the, it's this one.
Who's got the mouse?
He does.
Oh,
So in terms of what's changed since the last time.
Yeah.
It would be this page, these cloud, C1. So this is the the clearing and grubbing plan. So in response to the comments we got at one of our previous meetings, we've clouded, circled all the trees that we want to preserve outside of the clearing and grubbing area. Others cannot be preserved because there are homes planned for those areas. Or in this case, drainage structures here and here. So that was one comment that we were asked to add, which we did. So on this plan, we reference on this retaining wall detail, we reference a detail at the end of the drawing set, which I'll show you shortly, that incorporates, as Brian mentioned, the dry laid stone retaining wall, and you did as well, right? The dry laid stone wall retaining detail, so it's not an ancillary piece of paper, it's actually in the plan
Right.
set, so that's in the plan.
Not to exceed 4 feet.
Correct. That's what the drawing says here. So that's this piece. This is the drainage plan, but really,
Just zoom down, zoom a little smaller so I can see the page numbers on it. Just for my notes.
C2. So I'm
Figured,
just,
but I just wanted to double check as we go
Yeah.
through it.
no problem at all. So this one would be C3, which is, I'm sorry, that's C2 still. I hit the up button instead of the page button. So this is the drainage plan. Nothing has changed here. On the grading plan, as Beth mentioned, we've completely reworked this little area here to VHB's satisfaction. We've done a lot of work, and so have they, over the last several days. And between our comments and input and Beth's and VHB's, we've come up with what I think is the best solution to that problem of allowing that water to continue to get to where it used to go. And so, this area here has changed. We've got a modification here in the grass strip that's on the town's property, that's changed. And also, as Beth mentioned, we've got a little dipsy-do grade that changes here. Instead of going a steady 1% from roughly here to the end, VHB recommended that we come up
Oh, yeah, good.
and then go back down again
Yeah.
to this low point where the catch basin is. So that reduces some of the TSS, or total suspended solids, that Beth mentioned, because now some of those will be collected instead of being shed off the site. And so that's what's changed here. Otherwise, this whole drawing
Well,
stays.
the one thing that we did, also do was extend the guardrail.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that on the next
Okay,
page.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the
Well-
grading plan, that's the only change on this sheet.
So on this one, trying to get an answer to my question, where would a 100-year flood put the water so that the house wouldn't get?
Roughly 10 feet away. So the corner of that house is right there, and the swale that we're creating goes right across here. You can kind of see how those contours all line up. And you see that curve in these series of contours, that means it's higher.
Right,
So that area is right here, and it intersects right here where these contours are being shown. That's a little swale that we're creating in the grass strip. And to answer your question earlier, why doesn't the house flood? It's because everything's on a hill. And so unless somebody were to come in and put a dam across Highland Avenue, the water will never encroach upon that house, because it's always moving, always moving. So it can never come up and threaten the house, because it's always going downhill.
How high is the house above the sidewalk?
3 to 4 feet. So just the principles of physics and gravity, the water's moving, it can't continue to rise because it's always outletting downhill.
that depends upon the rate of flow. If you have a high enough flow, it doesn't matter how fast it's moving, you will actually get a rise in waters.
That would take a monumental, I mean,
Well-
we're already dealing with the 100-year storm, it would be way outside that. And because, here's why, because you have, the channel now is the entire street. So you're not talking about just a narrow little channel, which could in fact rise and fall with a increase in flow. We've gone from this point, by the time the water leaves the corner of that property, enters the new culvert that we've created, and then outlets into Highland, you now have the
Okay,
entire width of Highland, the grass strip on the other side, the grass strip on this side, and so there's no possible way for that water to grow, because the channel is now 30 times bigger than it was when it left the project site.
okay, that makes
Just
sense.
an order of magnitude that just can't happen. There would, like I said, there'd have to be a blockage, so a tree would have to fall, pile up of cars, you know. So that's this page. We've modified the landscaping
Yeah, I
to
wanna hear about
improve here.
that. So they were asking for 2 street trees on Highland.
Those are right here.
Yep, what are they?
Oh, off the top of my head, I don't know.
And which one is this, C4?
C3,
Five.
C5, we're up to C5 already.
So are those trees where the swale is?
Yeah.
What's that? So, we'll have to look at other locations on
And
that.
also,
Yeah, why don't we put, I originally, when we talked about, so this, there's a sequence here that caused that to happen,
right,
That's fine.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll move those trees out into the town strip if that's okay.
yeah. I
Because
think we
that's
just want street
unoccupied.
trees.
It's-
Well, I'm thinking even if you put them on the upper side of,
Over here,
your driveway or your road.
over here.
Yeah,
Well,
on
The
on
in-
Highland Ave still, but on
the,
just so they're not where we're gonna be regrading and having.
over here maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, that's fine with me.
It's up to the board, but
that-
it would be
That's fine,
kinda out of the area where we're regrading and doing other work.
that's fine
They
with
should
me.
be trees that can, the design review, this is Julie's actual note rather than the summary from Eileen. It says, we asked for 2 street trees on Highland Avenue for canopy and to define the street edge after the existing trees are gone. So they're looking for street canopy. I want to point out that this is going to be a very wet setting.
No, it's only the 100-year storm, which is very unusual.
Wet anyway.
No, it doesn't stay wet because it's, again, it's sloped. It's not like a flat area where water can just collect. It can't collect. It actually runs all the time. Even when water's on it, it's gone. So the water doesn't sit there and collect and grow, it just flows. Even with a grassy strip that's full of leaves, it's still gonna flow because you've got a hill.
But when you're in March weather and the ground's frozen, it's.
Well, even more reason, because it can't go in,
Super,
it
super.
flows.
Okay.
So it always
So,
flows.
anyway, I do support their general interest in street canopy, so I don't know how you,
Yeah,
well,
I think the
I
only thing
won't
is
solve that here.
We don't want it planted in the swale.
Yeah, I'm-
Understood, of course.
I'm happy to move,
I get that for the water
I'm
retention.
happy to move those two right
I
here.
think we're responsible for your time.
Okay,
So,
yeah, so we'll give you a couple more minutes, why don't we?
What sheet is that?
C5.
C5.
They'll be smaller if you put them in the sidewalk.
You also, when you, since you're gonna relocate them, can you also define what they are?
They're on the plan.
Well, that was my
Spec,
question.
you know, spec for the actual.
They're on the plan, right there. See the table?
Yeah, the box,
so
I know,
tiny.
the table's dinky.
That's not a helpful
It's not a-
comment, since none of us can read that.
Well, hang on a second, I'll blow it up so everyone can read it.
Okay.
This is how you do it on a plan set. There's the trees right there, there's the size, the caliper,
Now, Holly, we're already
right? So let's see, that is a 4, that's quantity AR, that's an AR tree.
Probably.
Acer,
Yeah,
red
no, that's
maple. right?
Okay.
Red maple.
Those have
3-inch
very,
caliper.
those actually have shallow roots. I do wonder if that's the right choice.
Well, why don't we,
I must say, I don't think that our staff has the ability to do that, but maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well,
are
why
you
don't-
a
why don't-
tree person?
I am not a landscaper.
Right, okay.
let's,
So you don't
let's,
need to be
let's
an
make a
architect.
note of whether or not the species are appropriate.
I would ask maybe Brian or Beth, if you're figuring out location, that's fine, but do envision a street canopy tree. But we could go to, try Elaine, and if not, Julie Raymond Schneider would be the right person. But just,
I think that in the street tree committee, Betsy, you might know, don't they have a list
Yeah.
of
I believe
trees
so.
that they recommend for?
As much as I feel
believe
trees
so.
are important, why don't we move on to the rest of this plan so we can
but
get
I
to our
want
discussion?
an action item.
I'm gonna add to that, one is the AR, the other one is a PO, which is a cherry.
Mhm.
Oh, that's too small.
So
No,
they're not
not a
too,
canopy tree.
they're not the same.
Absolutely not, yeah, no.
Okay,
That's fine.
You know,
We'll
from
make
this-
them whatever the town's tree
Right.
list wants them to be.
Well, it's
Okay,
not,
I
you're
mean-
gonna need somebody who actually knows the site.
Right.
Not every tree.
I think this is just one of a number of issues that we will have to have dealt with.
We gotta bring it to an end at some point though, right?
At some point, it will be brought to an end when we're happy with it.
'Cause
So let's move on.
There were
Let's-
months ahead of this to start talking about trees. I mean, we're kind of at
That's
the end
why
of
I'm
the line
asking us
now.
to move on, so
Adding
that,
new comments at the very end
can we
is a little,
please move on to the next page
disingenuous
in
for
this
the
that we have
process.
just seen today?
to be honest. I mean, we're all working in good faith, and you're just adding misery to the whole process.
I think that, why don't we concentrate on the plans in front of us and just leave it at that?
So this plan here, C6 and C7 are just a repeat of the drainage plan that you saw here, because what we're doing on this plan is showing the profile of the road. So this little area here has changed, right here, and that's it. I'm gonna get to Brian's comment because I skipped over, I'm trying to see what plan it's on. Let's see if it's this one or not.
Yeah, I think it shows up on landscaping, and I think it shows up on grading.
Oh, the wall, the
The
rail.
the guardrail.
Guardrail, so
Because
Guardrail.
it was only going over some and not part of the end of the hammerhead.
So
but now
our,
it's-
previously, our plan had the guardrail ending right here and not continuing to the end of the hammerhead because we needed that extra 2 feet for the overhang of the fire engine after the tire of the fire engine hit the curb. So we've now changed that. We've added the guardrail all the way to the end. We've expanded the hammerhead in this direction and in this direction. And we've added to the plan set the truck turn radiuses that justify and illustrate that it conforms with all fire truck apparatus, all Winchester apparatus.
With that, going to the HOA, since I know you're working on that, a lot of the hammerheads, they do require no parking at the hammerheads, because if there's parking there, the trucks can't get in and get out.
We have,
So
a-
you
we
can
have,
include that in your
we-
Add that
HOA.
as a
have-
condition.
we have no parking on the, I think we have a sign for it, but I'll make sure.
And what
Which is a
page is
safety
this
issue.
again?
The safety issue. yeah.
This is probably C,
Okay, give you another couple more, since we're dragging
We're
this
making
up.
progress.
C4.
C4. Oh, we're not going in linear, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Going to
Um,
be.
Is it already signed for no parking along the road? We talked about that.
We were talking about ones, we were gonna, I think it was one
I
side
thought it was
definitely,
both sides with the-
no parking at all.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, I think so, I'd have to look. We'll make sure that it is, since we're coming back at it.
And,
Sorry, I missed, so the recommendation is that there's no parking at all on this street?
Yeah, so the fire department has like a recommendation they've made in terms of road widths and.
Yeah.
So-
I think for that road width, they recommended no parking on either.
I think that's an excellent idea,
That,
because I will tell you,
that's
at
fine.
night,
think
when
he
it
already
gets
has
dark,
it.
it's very hard to see
But the
along
signs,
there, 'cause it's
they
not
were
lit.
up there, they were
There-
there.
The signs are in.
Yeah.
So the one piece I've not heard about, and maybe this is late in the game, but when we're talking about the guardrail, I do want to direct this to Beth. I remember way back with Fitzgerald Ave or whatever, right? Hello, we've been around a while, haven't we? And the issues about where the snow goes when it's being plowed. So where, I mean, it's logically, it's where's the town going to dump the snow, especially if you got.
It's gonna get pushed up against that guardrail.
That's what I'm saying.
And that
Exactly.
means
And then it's
it'll-
going to break. And
What's
I-
gonna break?
The guardrail.
It will.
Guardrail's gonna
And
break?
they've broken our street sign, which is metal. I mean, they break them.
I'm actually also concerned about the, essentially pollutants from the road getting dumped onto the conservation land right next
So
there.
DRC, they had mentioned to have a lower portion of the guardrail to block salt and sand, which the applicant.
Conservation.
Which,
So
which the applicant did.
We've added,
Oh, okay.
so to the standard DCR detail for wood guardrail, which we were using originally, we added I'll try to find the detail, but we added
Great.
an extra, let's try to find that.
It was a D9, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That was the new sheet
it's-
you provided.
Probably at the end. Okay, right here. So let's zoom it.
Wood
let's-
beam guardrail.
So normally, this detail only has one rail, and the reason for that is because this is only 24 inches tall by code with DCR, a 24-inch tall guardrail with a 12-inch wide rail beam, right? So Conservation asked for the specific reason that you referenced, can we add something lower to prevent salt spray and snow from plowing through that gap low down and impacting the wetlands? So this is what we've added. There's now only a 3-inch gap here and a 3-inch gap down there at the bottom.
Okay.
So if the salt gets
That
through,
addresses that.
That's
Does
better.
somebody have, and I'll turn, I'm sorry, Craig is on your,
Mhm.
but with the clocks, we got rid of that.
Yeah,
But,
forget the
how-
clock.
Do we know where
No,
the
we
snow
got
is
it still.
going? When it's plowed?
Well, so if this is a private way, the town, unless they make other, the homeowners association makes other arrangements, the town will plow this.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
my guess is that they will come in and plow and push it,
To the right.
to the right, up against that guardrail.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay,
another,
sorry.
I mean, I don't see another option. I mean, so the idea of putting the.
I'm not looking at. I'm
No, I
just-
know. Well, just the idea of putting the rest of that guardrail on the bottom was based upon the last conversation that we all had here of specifically cars backing up at night in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
So
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
felt it was an unsafe situation. I thought we had all said that we wanted to extend it all the way.
I'm not
Yes.
objecting. I'm just,
We-
I don't
So
know.
what typically happens on all, I'm sorry, Maureen, what typically happens on all roads in New England and in Winchester when it snows, and it snows a lot for several weeks or
Right,
months at a
right,
time, and
absolutely.
it just keeps adding up, is that the travel lane goes from 18 feet
Correct.
down to 12, down to 10,
Right.
which is still passable by all vehicles,
Right.
including
No, I'm not
emergency
worried about
vehicles.
that.
So what happens is that snow storage
that-
ends up happening on the road itself, and in the winter, for a month and a half, you go from having an 18 wide open road to a 12-foot wide,
We
and
can
it
debate
works, and it's 6 feet in it, it's plenty of room.
Well, what would happen is a fire truck would simply, like the fire department said, they would just go in.
Right.
And they would go out.
Back out, and
Okay. I mean,
Captain.
that's the worst case
Captain
scenario, so-
Tustin has said several times, as I've talked to him about the turning radiuses, that he's fine backing out of this.
As long- yeah, as
Okay.
long as fire department's
Well,
okay with it.
Because
Guaranteed. Who wants to bet?
Well, if it gets damaged, then it has to get fixed. And
That's right.
presumably that's,
Right.
it's not the town that's gonna
Right, so I
fix
think
it.
that's an important point to make, and that's
Yeah.
what I talked to Art about this afternoon in the HOA document, is that this, if this is to remain a private way, fix the
Mhm.
guardrail.
Right.
It's the responsibility of that HOA
That's right.
Right.
to make those repairs to the guardrail, make
That's some
repairs to
fun.
curbing, make repairs to
please.
the road, all of that is not town of Winchester.
Well,
But the
and,
town's plowing, oh, God.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the HOA must include language about guardrail repairs
right.
unless we take over the
And-
road.
and
So let's just leave it at
Just
that.
to be fair, these guardrails are tested, and reason the spec exists is because they've been tested for the force of impact
Right.
from snow, from plows, from cars. So they don't just break like a brittle piece of wood.
No.
They actually hold up quite well. And if we had to, we'd put steel in there to make sure that it didn't, but I like wood better because I think it fits in better with the character of the
Yeah.
environment. So
We'll just,
I think
the
we're-
HOA will have language, one way or the other, to deal with that.
we're good there.
I have seen, and with hammerheads, with this, where they actually designate an area where the snow goes.
Exactly, I've seen it
So,
on our,
but
in this
I don't know
town.
how that helps, but
Right,
if
I'm
you
The
put it right
boundaries were
there.
so constrained by the, property boundaries that were set up as part of the land transfer, that
Yeah.
ideally, you would give that space at the end of the hammerhead, right? You
Exactly.
have a space before the guardrail, like you'd end there'd be the curbing, and there would be a space, and there'd be the guardrail.
In between the houses, you can put it too, if you needed to.
You could, yeah.
Right, but like I said a few minutes ago, so we've got 18 feet of road, there's a full 6 feet before it even threatens the travel lane. So
Yeah.
that's a huge amount of snow. And you could pile snow at each corner of the hammerhead, and the fire department can still get in and get out because they've said they had no problem
They'll
doing
get in
that.
and out, I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so then
Good.
the snow storage issue is a problem, but it's solvable within the design that we've provided. So it works.
I'll be around.
Okay. Why
It
don't
works,
why don't we
so-
move on to the next one?
All right, so, and then those details that I mentioned earlier about the truck turning radiuses are all in the new sheets that we've added here. So this backs up all of the turning radiuses for the slightly modified hammerhead.
And which sheet is this again, please?
This is D11,
D11, okay.
and
And I'm assuming that the fire chief is happy with, is okay with these? He hasn't seen these.
they all work, and we'd have to rely on, I think, VHB to say yes to the
Okay.
auto turn. We can give VHB the auto turn, they can say yes, and then certify that these, what we've printed on the plan is in fact,
The truck analysis was not part of the HB scope, but we
Oh,
did meet
okay.
with Captain Tustin.
He was satisfied.
Previously.
Captain Tustin was satisfied.
okay,
Okay,
so there we
Last
go.
time we met.
I'm just making sure it's been checked.
Made it bigger since then, so.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah,
Let's-
that's the
let's-
important.
And then the last item is just adding this as a, second to last item is adding this as the example for the dry laid stone retaining wall that would go down at the bottom on lot 1.
Mhm.
And so that's not a floating piece of paper anywhere. Here's the lighting plan,
Yeah,
here's the
what-
lighting fixture,
Mhm.
uh,
Nice.
10-foot tall, tasteful, right? And here's the lumens. We've got a 0 in here, but it's really a short distance. I feel like if we added a 4th pole, it would be overkill. You had asked us, I wanted 2, you asked for 3,
Yeah.
so here's the 3.
Okay.
And that wraps
Well,
up.
you know,
So,
it
I
has
just
to be
wanna
there for
mention
the
on
late night dog walkers, you know.
On the light fixture, I believe the subdivision regulations call it the use of the town of Winchester standard light fixture, so that, I guess the question is, I think on private ways, the town still changes the bulbs on streetlights, just from a public safety standpoint, so this is not the standard town of Winchester fixture, and the town of Winchester can't be responsible for going in and changing bulbs, making repairs.
Wasn't this the acorn though that Fitzgerald, that, I think that was,
Is it the
that,
same?
I-
That's what the
that,
question.
yeah, I know,
I
I know
don't-
that
I
was the,
don't- yeah.
that was the, example
Why don't we
that,
leave that as a
Oh,
question?
what-
Beth makes a good point, but why don't you guys figure it out?
Yeah, just make a
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
and
Yeah, it
make
is
a
a
note
question.
that,
These are LEDs, so it'll be 20 years before anyone's changing
It's
a bulb.
okay.
No, but I thought that in my house.
That's-
when I was
that's-
changing light bulbs.
Does the town have a regulation about shining down versus
Yeah,
going up
Well,
into
I
the
see
sky?
DRC
Yeah.
was talking about a light,
It
making
has-
Well,
sure there's a
like I said,
black
we
top
have a
cover.
town of Winchester standard light fixture, and then the town went through and retrofit all of our light fixtures with, the LED fixture that we now have, so that was maybe done 3 or 4 years ago.
so if we just give that spec to Craig so he has it.
As long as it's attractive, I'm happy to change it. I like the look of this.
well, I think the
whatever-
one at
whatever you
Fitzgerald
want.
that we recently did was an acorn style, just like this, I believe,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
believe
so.
Guys
that,
work it out.
yeah.
Yeah, just
so
put a
we'll-
note in
we'll work
there.
that
I
out.
don't know if the town has light pollution standards,
That's
which,
what I meant.
I
And
don't
th-
think-
This,
We
this,
do, I think.
this,
Not for streetlights.
not for streetlights.
That's
In
weird.
the zoning bylaw for.
but this has a,
For other properties.
this
But
has
there's
a,
nothing saying so much has to go down to the ground versus up.
Yeah.
well, this has a refractor in the top, so it's all black on the top.
Yeah,
that's what
but
you- that's-
I can assure you astronomers hate the LED lights.
Well,
Being
to
an
me,
ast-
they put
being
no
an
lights.
astronomer,
I
I
can
hate those
imagine.
Up
LED
to me, I'd
lights.
put no lights, but, you know, this
Okay,
is,
guys.
Anyway,
That's it.
okay,
I have
so,
that note.
excellent, so you've got that note. Craig, is that pretty much it for the
That's it.
deltas?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I think at this point, the board will have a discussion amongst themselves. So if I could ask you, Craig, to go back into
yep,
the
I'm just
audience.
packing up my belongings.
Yep. And so at this point, we are, why don't we give ourselves, what I'd like to do is have people, let's go around the table. Each person gets a couple minutes and talk about how you feel about this, whether we want to continue this to another meeting or whether you feel like you have enough information to make a decision tonight. Because that's the decision in front of us, so.
Well, I am liking it better as we are going along. But I think that we want to ensure that we have those few questions and items that we had earlier, and I think we're gonna want, before we vote it, I think we're gonna want to just ensure, it's been purported to us that it's going to be on there, and I have no reason to doubt that. But if we're voting on something like this, I would like to know that that plan is complete.
Which plan was this? Just the
Talking
whole
about
thing?
the checklist we asked Brian to
Checklist?
do.
Okay, yeah,
Right. Thank you.
thank you.
I agree about that, but also I thought we were on hold because of the homeowners part.
From legal.
I'm asking for each person to give their opinion, so if
Oh,
you think
yeah.
it's important, then you should say it, because I may
Well, I
not.
don't have other comments, I just
Okay,
thought we weren't really voting because we wanted Art's feedback and we wanted to look at the HOA doc.
well, it's at this point where each person states whether they are interested in waiting or not, because we haven't really had a group discussion about this, but we could avoid that whole thing if we all agree, so.
I would like to see a checklist because I have all these different plans and different notes from people's meetings,
mhm.
and it would be nice to see it in one cheat
Be
sheet.
able to sort of bring it all
You know,
together.
just like, yes, all of these things were addressed,
Yeah.
okay, good, we can move on.
Okay,
Agree with everything Betsy and Heather said.
and, okay,
I would continue to hopefully wrap up with, but I would say this, it's going to take back and forth with the HOA and Craig, just as, maybe it's directed to Craig, we can vote it if it's approved, but if it's not been approved, we're gonna be extending
back
this,
here again.
requesting an extension.
Legal said they just need a couple days, and then,
well, we have to
Well,
make
the-
sure that it
He has
has,
comments, and then Craig responds, and it's back and forth, which is fine,
But
but
it's
it's not
still-
on our time, it's on
right,
your
but it
time.
would still be Art, to be
Yes.
honest, if Art's saying that this is what he would like, I don't know why we wouldn't
because there may,
necessarily agree with that.
we would agree that Art's approval is necessary but not sufficient. In that there may be things that we want in there that Art does not know about.
Or doesn't care about.
Or doesn't care.
Yeah,
So
okay.
having Art's
That's-
approval is necessary.
You gotta throw that thing out.
I am gonna turn this,
No,
No,
some
we
of
like
us like
that.
it.
okay,
Like it.
okay, so, I spoke out of turn. Heather, are you done, Maureen? Okay, Heather?
Yeah, I wanna see the HOA, the one issue with the HOA, which you just addressed, is Art's gonna look at it for his approval, and then we're gonna come in and review it behind everyone. And, things like saying, even though there's no parking signs at the Hammerhead, I like to say that it's part of the no parking requirement on the HOA, so stuff like that, which Art isn't going to be thinking of. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to incorporate those without
Too much back and forth.
circling, because we can't, as a board, we're not allowed to, we can provide input directly to Art, I guess,
Yeah.
and that's how we'd have to go about it, is we'd review it and provide our feedback directly to Art before he sends it onward to the applicant. and only Art would be the one who sees our comments.
Maybe the best way is if you can get ahead of it and think of just at least topics that you would, I mean, I know you lived in a condo, you've got some, I'm hearing the voice of a woman with experience.
I don't understand condo
Yeah, yeah.
management, but
Yeah, no, same here.
Homeowners
So
management.
I think if you have ideas, though, you can ship them out ahead of the game rather than waiting to see what Art and Craig come up with. I
do
mean,
you have
obviously,
thoughts,
you may
Brian?
still react, but
Wait.
I think it would be less likely.
it's the
Brian
most
could
efficient way to do
compile
it.
them.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's gonna, so Art's gonna review the draft that was sent over, the one that's up here. I'll obviously talk with him, but if there are any, things that you know that you want to have in the HOA, I would email them to me as soon as possible,
Right,
so that I can get them
right.
to Art, and see whether or not they're reasonable, I guess. I think that's so I think that's,
Did we get the file in our email?
We do not
The
have,
HOA, yeah, where's the HOA draft as it currently
'Cause I
sits?
don't think I saw it.
the HOA got sent, so the HOA got sent when I sent the link. I sent a link, it was too big to send, so I sent a link
So it's
that the applicant,
and
and it's.
today that we just
Yeah,
received.
it's
Dropbox
called,
link
and it
that
just
you
says
sent?
Abby, there's like 12 or several PDFs in there, and one of them just says Abby,
Okay.
and that's the
Big
agreement.
concept, though, and maybe if you would make notes, in addition to looking at the drainage, which is absolutely the most important thing, that since this is a private way, and I live on one, that this homeowners association should be expected to, it should be laid out that they will be funding the maintenance and replacement of that road.
And
Definitely, of
repairs.
course, I mean, that's
We say,
what,
of
that's
course,
the
but we've
definition of a
never-
private
And
road.
I
And
road
that was
predates
one of
that.
my comments, I don't think it's clear in the document right now, it's clear about the drainage maintenance, I don't
Right.
think it's clear that they are responsible for the capital maintenance of the roadway.
Exactly.
Right, not just, I think on there, it was just talking
Talks
about potholes.
Stuff like that,
Right.
but it needs to be clear that they.
They
you know,
rebuild.
They should be
We
saving for the next 20 years.
rebuild, but we don't have an
to rebuild
HOA,
that
so
road.
it's
Exactly,
volunteer.
so when it comes
Right.
up
But we're
again on
private.
full scale.
so let's make sure that,
the HOA funds.
HOA includes, road reconstruction,
Yep.
And
Pretty big one.
repairs due to snow removal.
construction and
And I would
repairs.
say, you know,
And maintenance.
road, surface, curbing,
Guardrail.
Guardrail.
there's no sidewalks, right?
Surface,
So, but any of that kind of stuff is fine.
The lights the
Guardrail,
town will
Drainage.
do. They're-
Not on a private.
drainage.
we don't-
Maybe I can get
Um,
mine.
Okay, so let's make sure those are in there. And, okay, so we're still going around looking for comments. Is that pretty much, are you done, Heather?
So I need to do a memo to you, Brian, of everything, once I
HOA.
have, because we just received that this evening before
Right.
we came here. So once I go through and review the most recent one, send you my comments, that then go onward to Art.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
or should I just send them directly to Art?
Better to
CC.
funnel them, yeah, I mean, as long, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, which was the direction to go to you?
Art and CC me.
Okay, both
And I
of you.
can't see the rest, I cannot include the rest of the board on it.
That's correct. Okay, so,
That's where I stand. I think
Or
we
you
need to get the
said,
HOA
yes.
in place in a stronger position and then come
Right.
back. And I think also, I would like to see some of the issues that we talked about, just the plans updated instead of having had a condition placed on the subdivision, saying that it meets this plan in place. So let's get the light fixture addressed and a revised plan instead of putting conditions on it. It'd be easier since we have this time right now. There's that, there was, the street trees was the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, have
And
that.
working through that, and, there's someone at the DPW who has that skill.
Yeah.
Who's on the street trees, who's responsible?
Jay Gill is head of the street.
Jim Shattuck.
Oh, Jim, sorry, I got that
Oh,
wrong.
you know why, cause they use a consultant for their trees.
Yes, Julie.
Well, let's,
Julie.
yeah,
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 Julie.
Looked at it recently.
let's, yeah, so we've got trees on
Can
there.
you just
She's the
close that
resident.
out
I got
so
it.
it doesn't come back up again?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, I have nothing new to say, so, I agree with everything that's been said.
So,
So I think what I'm guessing from the board is a motion to continue
But-
this.
right, yes, the only thing is that we have we've already continued 654 Main, we've left that open on the 17th at 9 o'clock to have a final, to allow the applicant to potentially withdraw. So that's happening at 9. I believe, if we were gonna continue this, it would have to be at a minimum of 9:15. So we have to continue to a time certain.
The question I have, is that enough time for all of these odds and ends to get tied together?
No,
And that's where, you know, I'm
And
out of
hard,
town
too.
for 4 days, and I will not have a chance to look over these prior to that.
To the 17th.
Yeah,
yeah, no.
I have a 110-page document for the master plan that I have to review. I have
Nice.
work, and I'm gonna be out of town for 4 days, so I
Is that
cannot
called
possibly
urbanized?
review this by next Monday.
Right, right,
So I believe that means that
January 8th.
we're up to January 8th.
That's the lad that's dropped dead, so.
It's a
Yeah.
drop dead date.
That's unless,
So
so,
a decision needs to be rendered
yeah.
by then, yes.
so the
You don't have
question,
another meeting this month?
no, we were,
Well, we're master plan meeting.
We have master
Master
plan on the
plan.
17th, and then it's Christmas, New Year's.
yeah, so we're pretty much done.
Christmas.
So I think that December 8th being the drop dead date leaves,
January.
thank you, January 8th. I don't think I don't like that in the terms of timing. I wish we had a little more buffers, because I'd like us to be able to have the opportunity to maybe meet twice if needed.
Mhm.
So I personally would like to ask the applicant for an extension. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I understand how you feel.
Well, we don't, I think Craig's hearing it, and I think that, we can go to the 8th, and I think he's
Yeah, I
going
don't
to be
think
motivated, as they
right now.
say, and so's, I think Art is very responsive. I do realize
Yes.
it's over Christmas, but there's enough time for a homeowners
No, I mean,
association.
Art basically said that he could have something by
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, I think
Art's
the
not the
8th is
holdup here.
doable, and if there's a huge hiccup, which I think it's possible we will be fine. So I guess I'd like to look on the bright side and say we can certainly ask for the extension if things go as,
I know.
But you don't have to ask for that.
we don't have
at
to
the
do it
moment.
now, right?
No, we
I-
don't, and I have to
I
say,
just want, yep, okay.
and I
Just
feel,
raising the flag.
personally, I feel much more encouraged after tonight's
Yeah,
meeting, to be honest.
I think it's doable.
Okay,
It's pretty, I think we were pretty clear on what we're looking for and where our holdups are,
okay.
Okay,
right?
And
so,
if you have that checklist and then he sees where the holes are, that will help too, to make
Yes.
sure we're on the
When
same.
you create that checklist, would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
please make sure Craig has a copy?
Of course, no.
The
That's
applicant.
what I mean.
So can we
7:30?
put a deadline on the checklist? Can we say checklist, so that we
Whatever
can?
you want.
What are you able to do?
Yeah,
What
let's
is
not
the
say
better-
whatever we want, yeah, so
What's a reasonable time for
This
you
week.
to turn it around? So it'll be by the end of the week?
I think I could I think at the latest Monday, but I think I wanna shoot for this week, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Hey, you have
Given
to
that-
take care of the kitties.
No, he has some meetings he has to
we
go
have
to.
Santa
lots of
is
meetings
coming.
this
You
week,
have budget
Brian,
stuff
are you
going
sure?
on.
okay, let's wrap this
I
one
think it
up.
should,
I
I'm
think
shooting
it's
for
9
Friday, and I think worst case Monday, but I'm
Okay.
shooting for
Okay.
Friday.
So why don't we continue this meeting, or continue this hearing until,
Seven-
January the 8th
It's 7:30.
at 7:35, just so we have 5 minutes of crotch at the beginning.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing to January 8th at 7:35 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, there we are, 5-0.
Yep.
Thank you. And our apologies to whoever's waiting on us.
Can I get a half set of these, Brian, instead of a full set?
Sure.
Can I borrow these for my conservation meeting and then give them back to you?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's, one sec.
Classes, I don't
Now
know.
we
if
are.
it's
We are on
classes is
Petition
pretty-
38, petition 3872, 3 Meadowcroft.
Yes,
This has been heavily vetted by the Rangeley Park Heritage District Commission, the Historical Commission, and Design Review. There have been no issues associated with the design or the streetscape or the look and feel, anything related to design. That is all passed with flying colors. My only comment is actually an echo of the engineering department, which is that the stormwater infrastructure calculations were never really incorporated into this project. It was just a simple, this is the location of a dry well, but it doesn't actually show the calculations needed for the roof runoff, for the new roof runoff, that it's actually gonna accommodate that. So, my only comment was that those calculations should be, incorporated into the project so that the proposed dry well can accommodate the water runoff from the addition, and otherwise I recommend favorable action with regards to this petition.
Okay,
All right.
does anyone have any comment?
I
no?
hope that all makes sense.
Okay,
So
so,
moved,
I would-
as our town planner suggested.
yeah, so yeah,
So
Would
you
you like
say
me to make the motion?
approve with conditions?
approve with
Conditions.
conditions that,
Approve with the condition that the stormwater infrastructure calculations be incorporated into the project so that the proposed dry well can accommodate the water runoff from the addition.
Right, and that we can see what the engineering impact is. Boom.
so in other words, the sentence.
The
that you were-
sentence that I put in my memo.
Yeah, just put,
That's the one.
Okay,
do we have a second?
Favorable action.
Second.
Heather Hannon, oh wait, let's wait, you're the one taking notes, so we have to wait for him.
just a second.
You gotta type faster.
Okay, so the motion was Von Mering, the second was Hannon.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, 1 recused.
401 recused. Okay, the
And
next.
usually you have to say, Maureen recused.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, well, she had, yeah. 'cause she was
Just to
on it.
note who recused.
All right.
Okay, the next one, so 735 Main.
Let's
Um,
go, let's
Hold on
go.
one second, let me get our recused member.
Okay.
I don't, is she coming back?
She's over there.
She left all of her stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
She'll
She
be
did
back.
indeed.
She's got all that
There she
gingerbread.
is.
Would you like to return it back in? Yeah. Heavy sweater.
I know, I should
Not
have
dressed.
brought like a scarf.
Dress up a little bit. Like Disney.
Okay, so 735 Main.
Right, so 735 Main, this is
Okay.
a special permit under section 9.4 to be permitted to construct a 3-story building with retail space and structured parking on the first floor, with 8 residential units on the second and third floor. Property is located in the GBD 2 as well as the Village Center Overlay District.
Mhm.
Site plan review is also triggered due to the new use proposed on vacant land.
Right.
Okay.
So the main issue that I'm having with this, and the engineering department and I met with the applicant pre-application, told them that the configuration, the current configuration of the road would not allow a left turn going south into the property, and that we instructed the applicant that before they apply or concurrently with this application, they talk with the select board, because that is a whole other issue with a public hearing associated with
Right.
changing the configuration of that road, basically lopping off portions of that island, no
Could you-
man's
could you
Yeah,
land.
who owns, is it just town?
That's town.
That's town.
Town.
That's
It's
town.
sorry.
Right now, there's, as you're turning, if you're on Skilling's Road, you're turning right onto Main Street, there's like a small triangle
Yeah.
area.
Here, it's here.
Yeah, could you put the,
I can bring up the other one.
yeah, bring up the other
Yeah,
one.
that's helpful.
So whose is that, the parking?
So that is all included in the right of way of the road.
Yes.
That's
It's
ours.
not like a separate parcel, it's the right of way.
Okay.
So any modifications to the curb line or traffic flow or parking would be under the jurisdiction of the select board.
And as of right now, that is, you cannot turn right and go through it. It's not a through.
It's not a throughway.
Yeah.
So you
So
basically
people
can't
certainly-
enter from the, either way.
So people
Well-
certainly use it that way, I think, you know.
Yeah, but it's
a lot
illegal.
of traffic, people use it that way, and people who aren't familiar with the area, so. We met last week, and Brian wasn't there, it was just Brian, Carrie and I, we met with their traffic
Let me
engineer.
just get a Google map over
So we
here.
talked
so-
about ways in which they could, modify it so that it's clear that it's not a through way for people to be going, it's just
Right.
for people who are accessing those businesses.
Is there a better way to do all of that if we're gonna redo it anyway?
We.
Better is a,
So, you know,
Nicer?
it's a very, non-aesthetically pleasing area.
No, it's not,
Right,
it's
so
not,
I
it's
was
not, but it
picturing
is
it,
sort
like,
of open
looking
there,
really
I mean,
nice.
but
I
it is
think
kind of open there on the end, though, you know.
The businesses who use those parking spaces are very protective of it because it is the
I
only
can
parking
I can
that's
understand
provided
why,
to their
yeah.
businesses. So, over the years, as we've done things around that area, they've been very protective of those spaces. So, I did say to the applicant and their traffic engineer that I thought there were things they could do to improve the aesthetics of that with some landscaping or whatever else. I suggested that they try to keep the existing number of parking spaces that are there, but try to, you know, work it with some improved pedestrian,
Can we actually get the overhead?
function and some improved
There's
landscaping.
something I don't understand
Make
about
that
this.
a little bit more
Attractive.
cohesive of an area.
Yep.
Yeah, so what so currently,
How many spots are there?
this
It's
is,
here.
it's right here. So
No, in the islandy thing.
the right of way that they have to put the driveway in is, I think, right here.
it's basically directly in front of this bulb,
So
straight,
there's, the only way
straight
to
here.
get into this property easily is actually to come through here.
the no-through zone, yes.
In a no-through zone, which is totally inappropriate.
Correct.
So there is actually no access from Main Street onto this property, other than through this.
Or the other end, on the side that's closer to the dump.
But if you have a parcel there, can't you pull in there? I mean, how else would you get to your
I
property?
actually don't think it's that inappropriate that the only access is through that area. It does stop people from making the left turning movement from
Right.
Main Street into
Right.
that site, which is a dangerous turning movement.
It is,
So I don't think, I'm not so concerned about people having to go through that area to access it. If that's, obviously, it's not ideal, but that's just the way the site's set up. And there's an eminent story easement through there, so they can't put the building there.
Right, they do have to, and so that's a good point that we didn't mention, is that they actually do need to enter there.
Yeah, they can't enter anywhere else.
Well, that's
They-
not true, because the prior house that was there was entered on the other end.
But-
You can actually see it was
Bill
here.
on the far end.
Right, but they can't put a building
Yeah,
there.
no, so this is
It's
the
right
sewer
here.
line.
That was the entrance to this property, was right here. And if you put it here, the other problem is you have is all the pedestrians that are coming on, that are from the north, this side of North Main, are all coming down here and they cross right here. And now you're having all this traffic flow, right, and they can't get down here without having this safety, as when the entrance to the site was over here, it was safer, because it's farther away from this.
It's a different parcel, isn't it?
Well,
No, this
You're
is the
pointing to?
driveway for this, the original house, the historical house that was there. It was over here, and then you had the green barn.
So,
domino.
the- I mean, in essence, what they'd have to do then is, because they can't put the building on the right of the property because of the right-of-way for the MWRA, they'd essentially have to have a driveway loop all the way around to get to the parking on the other side of the
Right, so
structure.
it'd be
I
going
think
like
what-
this.
The structure is too big for what the
Right.
site can accommodate.
The usual. Sorry.
We're trying to
You're right.
slam it all in there and then expect the town to take on the,
Are you seeing a pattern emerging?
Well,
I mean,
they're
that thing
building
is so
something that's, they can build,
Right, thank you.
well, they can build it by,
Are we discussing the right topic first or whatever?
Well, I
there's
think.
multiple topics.
There's
Yeah, I mean,
multiple
so
topics.
So what, I mentioned it because we had told the applicant that you should be, we gave the roadmap, the attorney who was representing them, I talked with them
Who's
after,
the attorney representing?
Tarby,
Yeah.
he represents a lot of people. He was like, yes, I remember that conversation. So like, they're fully aware that they should have gone through some type, at least started a process with the select board. They haven't yet.
Oh,
So my recommendation at the moment is that, we have to continue this. We can't, it's possible the whole thing could change, it's possible the whole thing could change.
that's right.
So I think there needs to be some very strong, is the whole ownership of this really with the ZBA? Or do you as town planner, does anybody as town engineer?
The select board, so this is a select board issue, they would definitely defer to staff when they wanted. I think they would do that, and they would probably go to DPW engineering and planning for their opinion, but it's their it's their, charge. It's not the zoning board, the zoning board can't authorize a change to the street.
And their staff
No.
No,
representative
no,
is the
streets
town
are their
manager.
purview.
Is this the message really that should be you, Beth, and the town manager should be,
And DPW.
and Deep, okay, put the whole team in, getting back to getting a message developed. I guess the select board as the street commissioners, are they,
Correct.
they're the ones who have to actually sign it, but should this just not be going any further?
It should be shut down.
So what I'm saying is that you can call it shut down, you can.
We're just a recommendation on other stuff, is, Heather, I'd like to talk about how ugly it is, but,
I was
This
actually
is-
just talking about how ugly that islandy thing is, and if we're talking about North Main Street and a master plan, like, there's a lot of potential to do something more interesting at that intersection. It seems short-sighted to change it just for this
So maybe
property and
that's our-
not think about
Yeah.
what
That's
we
so-
really want that intersection.
That's
to be.
exact- so that-
There's a pedestrian issue right there. too.
Yeah, there's a
So-
lot
Yeah,
of
you were
things
good
that could
about-
be better about that.
Total,
spot.
and that, my point was that to not have some type of concurrent process with the select board going, it's
Yeah.
possible, like you're saying, that this could not completely, but it could change the configuration of the site,
That's
forget what would happen here, but something that could happen here would make the building change. So that's why I feel the application is premature, whether, you don't necessarily have to say that it's completely dead. What I would say that it should be continued until there's at least some feedback by the select board.
No, but
No, I think it should be
Beth is
pulled.
saying you
Right.
could.
Yeah.
Not
Wait.
continued.
It should be.
I'm confused because Beth is saying that it's fine to drive in this way and turn right and then come out and
Because
turn
it's safer,
right.
because it's safer at the
Right.
moment. Yep.
So they can still have a project there. I mean, I don't like the
It
project.
would still need, no, they would still need, I would
Why can't you
imagine,
drive?
They need curb cuts and
So
everything
when
from the
we
select
met,
board.
Because there's a
again,
lot of
we met
traffic that
last
goes
week
through
with
there,
the
a lot.
Beth, could you come to the table, please?
I met last week with the applicant and their traffic engineer.
Can you please name the applicant? Whom did you meet?
it's
Uh,
Murray, it's
uh,
not Bob Murray, but it's
it's-
his company, Murray.
Oh,
yeah.
I know, but they're real.
His name is it's his nephew,
his nephew,
Michael
right?
Murray.
Michael
Okay.
Murray, thank you.
So that was the person who was there, and they've hired Tool Design Group, who I think is, the town works with, so I'm glad that's who they're using. But, so we met out there and we talked about, them looking kind of more holistically at that area in terms of circulation and parking and
So it
pedestrian.
would be appropriate, though, to see, I don't know how we, as a planning board, have a role here, but this is a gateway to our
Yeah.
center business district that we've worked so hard on, so
Gateway
if
to
you're
life.
having
So
this
it's-
message and it's all about circulation, but to me, this is all
So-
part of the conversation about what's happening.
Yeah,
in
so
the
my
neighborhood.
message was not all about circulation, because I knew that you
Yeah, 'cause the
would
appearance.
want to be taking a more holistic
Yeah,
look at
thank you,
this
that
area,
was-
because it's frankly an eyesore.
It is,
And I think there's also an
But-
opportunity.
can't walk.
and-
Right, so-
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean-
think most
So-
of you are
So-
probably not aware of how much traffic goes through there. There's a lot.
Yeah, well, that's an issue, right? So that was one of the things we brought up, is ways in which they can make it clear that it's not a through lane for people who just don't want to sit at the light, right? So that's part of what needs to be looked at. But, so what I recommended to them was that they needed to get on the select board agenda as soon as possible. And I expected, to be honest, that we'd have something this week based on the conversation we
This is
had.
exactly what we recommended
So, but hang
7
on,
weeks
hang on,
ago.
so
Oh,
I'm just
jeez.
concerned that, and I know I am confident that you had the idea and then the idea, but how does this broader interest go to the select board, since they're really the ones in the driver's seat, to make sure that this just
I
doesn't
think we sent
get-
them a letter.
That's what I
Right.
think.
No,
I
no.
think the planning board sends a letter. You can send your own letter as your own as a town planner, but I think the planning board takes a position on
Right,
Well,
that.
there will be a
in
hearing.
the-
I would imagine the select board will have a
I know,
hearing on
I
this.
think
and
we
then-
still
No, but
send
I
them a
mean,
letter.
how do we all have a stance?
Yeah, no,
on
so
what
they
we
will have a
say?
hearing and they will ask for comment, and the
We-
board,
we
the
can-
board
we-
will
we
write a
can-
memo and they'll be part, it'll be part of the hearing.
Part
We
of the
can still
public
write them a memo before then. I'm
saying
not
this
sure
is
what.
coming, this is what we know, and this is what
I'm
our
not sure,
concerns are.
yeah, I think that we would want to,
That crumb.
I haven't really heard a coherent discussion of what our concerns are, other than we don't like what's there.
Oh, I thought mine were pretty coherent in terms of the pedestrian safety of that
Yes.
intersection, the traffic, the turn, the blind turn coming out of that.
Landscaping.
Well-
retaining the parking for the
Well,
businesses.
the,
You have
the,
to-
the question is, if we're gonna talk about the overall design, or are we trying to talk about this particular property?
Well, so this particular property is going to be going to the select board to request that they get rights to use this triangular piece to access their property.
Just to be really quick, what they're gonna propose is basically lopping off a portion of the end of it.
Which is the select board's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And what I would like to do is get ahead of that and let the select board
Right.
know that
We want a bigger vision.
we want a bigger vision before they give away and
Right.
say that
Yeah,
that
we
is
don't want them to give
acceptable.
away the store.
I
Okay,
would take a step back and I would say, if you're gonna write a letter now, that your letter should say, this project is moving forward, and because of the changes that are being proposed here, they should be required to come before the select board at a public hearing to discuss
Yeah.
changes and mitigation that they wanna that should be made at this location as part of their project.
Right.
So I think I would take a step back and say,
I think that's a
not
good way,
only wh-
that's a good
you
way to
know,
put it. Yeah.
what you wanna see, but that the select board should take this on as an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right, and then
thank
they'd
you,
have a
Beth.
kid-
Can
then
you
they'd
write
have a
that letter
kid.
for us? And
Yeah, thanks.
What she said?
Yeah, can you do that?
It's on tape.
It's on tape, so. there we
Okay,
go.
so right
Hold
now,
on.
the only thing that they require, I mean, could they simply not use things as existing?
So, again, could is not the question in terms of whether it's the safest boat, makes the
Right.
most sense from an access and an out
I
standpoint is a
understand,
different
but-
question,
but-
right? I think in theory, yes, they could go in and get put a curb cut in there and have traffic flow there and take it right into their parking lot.
Right, so I'm just trying to understand if there is a requirement. Going before the select board to redo this, is that required in order to move this project forward, or is that something we
It's a
would
gray
like?
area, right? So if they're making changes, they would certainly be required to go before the select board.
Right,
But
but
what
if
they
all they
said
did
now
was
is
put in a
they
curb cut,
Then that's a gray area.
it's a gray area?
I think it's a gray area.
I mean,
The select board doesn't issue curb cut permits.
right, but DPW, but
That's
Right.
approved as part of the ZBA.
Yeah, so if all they need is a curb cut, and legally they're allowed to get a curb cut,
But I think what Brian said is that they've already said that they want to make changes. So that right there triggers.
okay,
going
if
to
they've
the
already
select
said they
board.
want to
yeah,
make
they wanna
changes.
cut off certain, I don't know
Right.
how many feet, but they wanna cut
Right,
off.
they
a certain
want to
amount
do
of
that,
feet.
but do they need to do that? I want to make sure that there is
It's awful.
leverage in the sense that, that we understand that they have to go
Well,
before
the
the
problem
select
is
board.
what you don't have in front of you, and this to me is where the ZBA application is deficient, is the traffic component of this
Right.
analysis, right? And I don't know if that's specifically called out as a requirement. Is this site plan review that they're going for, or is this a
There's
special
special
permit?
It's
permit
both.
too. It's all.
It's
So
both.
So-
it's listed as, it's not listed as site plan review.
Well,
I thought it said that.
but
I-
you said it,
I think it's site plan review because it's
it's
a
been
new-
more than 2 years, right?
Well, it's been a site plan review because it's new use on vacant land.
That's right, but it's 2 years from previous use, which was a business, I think.
Regardless, are they required to submit a traffic analysis as part of the submission requirements?
I think it's a may,
It's a May.
yeah, like they may be required, meaning.
Okay,
the-
well, this is a,
Be required.
in my opinion, this is an area where it's
They
not
should
as amazing
require
as it should, yeah.
Right, okay.
You can't do a traffic thing until you figure out what is actually gonna be allowed through the select board, but if you're touching the parking, which they are impacting,
If they take.
No, I don't think that's right. I think they should go to the select board with their request. And the select board should use that as a starting point,
As a
right?
starting point, right, and bring.
If
and
they're
bring out-
looking
and
to
bring
make
others in.
modifications, that's a point, not only to make it useful for their project, but to improve it overall for all
Right, because
users.
this, right, and if we wanted to send them a letter to that effect, we could just say that the planning board views this as a very important parcel.
and
In
JGL
terms of
needs
midterm-
to be
midterm,
CC'd on
yeah.
that also.
Yeah, it's a wider conversation for sure.
Right.
Nobody needs to be
Yeah,
CC'd
but
on
to
that letter.
Diab's point, they could just drive in there and turn and do the project, like, we're just.
No, because
No.
they're
Hopefully,
residents.
hopefully the ZBA would say that this is not safe
Yeah.
and adequate access to the site.
Right, there is definitely, we can come in under that, but that would be,
That's true.
And they know that.
And that would be.
I mean, the
another-
applicant knows that it's not a safe,
Okay.
it's currently not a safe place to be driving into in either
Right.
direction.
But
And-
then there's still, it's a petition that's got a date on it of Monday, December 17th, so.
It's before, yeah.
I'm concerned that we
Hmm.
don't have it coming up before the fact, it's on their docket, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Of course.
Well, I think, in my opinion, what you should do is write the areas where there's deficiencies and the, not, and the things that need to be addressed before you can even really take a look at it. And number one is traffic. How are they going to address the traffic flow in and out of that driveway? And what modifications are they gonna make to that
Circulation.
area for circulation improvements?
Yeah, traffic circulation around the
Why
site.
is this actually coming in as a special permit?
It's coming in as a special permit because of, eight,
Right.
it's 8 units above.
Two.
You can do 4 by right, and it's, but they
They
can do
want
up to
eight.
8 with a special permit.
And it is
Okay.
also site plan review as it came to the ZBA has it as site plan.
It does, yeah, it's site plan review because it's a new use on
In addition,
vacant
the
land.
petitioner
Right.
seeks site plan review in accordance with section 9.5.1, et cetera.
And why, once again, why can't they keep the existing access point to that lot? Is the DCR land, they have an
Oh, you're saying
easement?
here?
Yeah,
There's a big easement on the right.
No,
I
yeah,
don't-
they can't use this, I think.
With their current design, they can't fit that driveway. They need a bigger driveway than obviously what serviced a,
yep.
I don't know if it was a single family or a two family. So they can't
They have to
fit
bring it
the,
in and use this,
they
yeah.
can't fit their, not to say that they can't make a smaller building,
Yeah.
but they can't fit their building and that driveway.
If
Could,
keeping it
could
that
they
size, right.
make a smaller building and put a driveway on the left-hand side? Sure, but then you'd have to, as Diab said, go around,
Yeah, 'cause,
Another reason why
I mean,
we
if
thought
they-
it was
if they-
premature.
provide surface parking on the,
right.
over the easement, which makes sense, right, from a site layout perspective, then you're kind of going around the building, which is,
And the other side is to access, though the reason they wanna cut that back is so you can turn off of Main Street right into their
Correct.
drive, which is gonna back up Skilling's.
well,
There's
so
no-
I would
there's
say
no-
it's premature to speculate what they're gonna do until they have their traffic engineer review it. Because their traffic engineer is gonna look at those turning movements and say, is that even a safe turning movement to make? So, I mean,
Exactly.
maybe that's what they wanted to do 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or whatever, but until their traffic engineer has evaluated it, we may not land where they thought they were gonna land to
That's
start
quite
with.
true.
Okay, my eye is on the clock,
Yeah.
and we are moving, so I think we've covered the traffic.
Well, it's, how are they going to address the traffic and circulation issues related to the existing island and the sewer easement?
Right,
It's unclear.
it's
And,
unclear.
and you would, I think you would say that, if there are modifications being proposed, that needs to go before the select board.
Yeah, and this is a safety issue, so. Okay,
That's pretty concise.
I also noted seems to be an awful lot of parking spaces.
19.
Yes, thank you. I got approximately the same.
I think they have one extra, just one. So they're required to have the,
16.
yes, or, well, I think,
Well, then the other was retail, I guess. They
right,
showed
so
it
it's,
on-
it's per 200 square feet. They need a spot for every 200 square
For
feet,
some
which
reason
is.
it landed on a plan.
So so you figured out that's the appropriate amount of parking?
Yeah, I think they're giving one or potentially 2 more, I can.
'Cause it just seems like if they could reduce the parking, then they wouldn't need so much
There's
space.
a lot.
Let's go to
but I
GBD.
think this is the whole problem, I think. There are tons of problems with GBD 2 and 3. And when we catch our breath in January, I think we gotta get it going.
But,
Yeah.
okay, so,
But
why
that's
don't
what
we
should be
try
doing for
to,
town meeting. Yeah.
Negotiate that. I'm not sure they care that if we were to say we'd be happy to see less parking, because sometimes they want it anyway, for their condos.
It's, you know-
It struck me as high.
yeah, so,
These are not big units, and you don't need every unit with 2 parking spaces.
No, but that's the requirement.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know, I understand. I'm just saying, could we negotiate that down with them? But I'm not sure they care.
if it gives them,
I mean, there's marketability
Yeah.
of 2 spots per
Right.
unit, so, I mean, that's what it is. So that's where the 16 is, and then it's a space per 200 square feet, which I think gets them to 18
I
spaces.
assume that, now again, it's the ZBA, not us.
Yeah.
that They could waive the parking.
well, why don't we work on trying to come to a decision on this right now? So,
Well, I'm concerned that that there's some chance it would go forward. Would it? Or you seem pretty sure, Brian, that they,
What?
or Beth, you met with them, their lawyer or something? Well,
I
do you
didn't,
think
I
this is
wasn't in
gonna
that
go-
preliminary meeting that
yeah,
Brian were
Yeah,
in.
that was
but
pre-application.
but,
I met with them with the applicant, or his representative, and their traffic engineer.
You met with Murray or Junior, whatever, cousin, or.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Right.
anyway. Yeah.
So regardless of these side meetings,
I'm responding to you because
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we have to take two positions. One, if what we would like to see, which is that there's some meeting with the select board. But I'm also wondering, do we need to have a position in case the ZBA decides they're just plowing ahead? I don't know.
we have to vote because we
One way
don't
or
have
another.
another time to vote on
Because
this.
we need to have a position.
Yeah, it's on.
We need to have a position, so I mean, we could have a position that we feel that the traffic circulation, it's premature because the traffic circulation is an obvious safety issue which hasn't been addressed. And then I think we could continue to talk about the other parts of this, namely the design,
Right.
Right.
the fact that it completely ignores all of the historic buildings to the left of
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think we can go through and come to a decision tonight as to whether we approve this project.
Oh, well, I think it's pretty, I
So-
would make a recommendation and then we can flush it out, but if we're on favorable action, but.
Well, so why don't we move to that, because I really, it's already 9:30.
fine. So I move unfavorable action,
Recommend it.
recommend unfavorable.
Okay,
action.
just remember Brian is not as fast as Liz.
No, that's fine.
Mhm.
See? I
Well,
stopped. I
second.
stopped.
Well, no, you have to say, you don't wanna say based on anything?
You have to base it on something.
Right. Well, we can,
Well,
There's
that's gonna be a
basic
long
ba-
motion.
that's gonna
That's
be a long
okay.
motion. Say, based
Or
on,
the following.
You could say
yeah.
based on the lack of traffic and circulation, work that needs to be done prior to,
The
There's
insufficient.
no,
Well,
there's
if
no
it's-
traffic
if
study that
it's-
was
if it's-
submitted
it's
with
a
their
bit-
application, and
Just say,
there's clear.
based on
insufficient
insufficient
parking and circulation.
parking and
unfavorable
circulation.
action based on the lack of a traffic study.
No,
No.
is that
Traffic and
saying that you can do a
circulation.
Traffic study and push it through. It's just a lot more to it.
Okay, so why don't we slow down, sit back and get the words right.
Is it road design?
We want to say something about,
Pedestrians.
As the road is currently designed, it does not.
Well, it's not currently, it's as in their plan,
As proposed.
as proposed. right?
But they're not, they can't touch this, they can't design the street, so it's their proposal is,
So it sounds like still it's recommending unfavorable action based on the lack of a traffic and circulation study.
No,
As
no.
well as a
No.
hearing
Right,
through the
here,
select board.
I've got the words. The proposed plan does not take into account traffic circulation and pedestrian safety due to the intricate design of the intersection.
Complex.
Messy.
And the
Confounding.
related complex. And the related complex.
The-
Well,
The confounding design of the Skilling's Main intersection.
and Lake,
Yes.
Lake, Main, Skilling turns to
Late,
Lake.
Right,
late
right.
Skilling's
Main, Skilling's Main and Lake
intersection.
intersection. Okay,
Semicolon.
somewhere.
Pedestrian.
It also creates, yeah.
Yeah, but I would do more than say pedestrian safety. There's by reducing the size of the northern tip of the island, how's that?
Well, is that actually in the
That's not
plans in front of us, or is that?
They have said that, I mean, it's not in the plans, but that's what they have told me that they wanted
I
to.
But
think they're trying to push it through without doing that right
Yeah.
now.
We don't have that in front of us.
Because right now, what they're showing is that island staying at is, so what that is doing is creating an unsafe pedestrian
Okay, just
situation.
Leave that then.
So we
Okay.
do wanna include that it is
Unsafe.
creating, as currently is creating an unsafe pedestrian.
So,
As currently presented.
not that I'm disputing what you're saying, but there is, with the new bikeway project, there is a new crosswalk that has been installed here. So people could come down here and cross here.
They have, yeah, but they have to turn,
So there's a new, you can come down this sidewalk, and there's a new ramp that's installed here, and a new crosswalk to get you to this, cut in the, so that's the safe pedestrian.
Yeah,
ADA accessible pedestrian path to get through that intersection.
What they're
That'd be pretty
hoping is
well,
people
darn
will
well
turn right.
signed, because it's, otherwise it's
What's
gonna
that?
be a
The
problem.
way they have it is they're hoping people turn right off of Main and get into their drive and loop around, or they'll come through the thoroughfare, so they'll be coming at two different directions at their drive.
That seems really,
Right, but
really
people,
dangerous.
my point was people don't have to cross here now, because now there's a,
She's saying we can't say pedestrian safety because now there's a safe crosswalk.
right. and
Well, there's still pedestrian safety because
How about the other end? Yeah.
it's confusing for how you get into that driveway. And, I still think pedestrian safety is an issue, but,
yeah, I'm not disputing that that's an issue, I'm just saying that this is no longer, the way for people to get here, because now we have an accessible route here.
It's
This-
actually
this is not-
accessible because
Yes.
it has never been handicap accessible.
Was modified
That
as part of the bikeway project, because this was the accessible route for the bikeway project.
But is it
Okay.
handicap accessible?
Yeah, she said,
There's a handicap ramp here,
she said that.
a
Okay.
new crosswalk, and there's a curb cut opening here.
Right, and is there a sign that says that?
okay, can I
Okay.
ask the
My guys
board,
never
can I ask the board to move to the rest of this motion? We can discuss,
So
we're gonna leave the
pedestrian
words
safety.
pedestrian safety in.
Correct.
Somebody was gonna put a semicolon in and do something after the semicolon, but I think we've dealt
Pedestrian
with it.
safety's in.
It's in. Okay, so that's the first issue.
I would not belabor it, but I would add that any modification needs to go through the select board, so that it's clear to the
Yes.
ZBA
Right.
that it's not just
Right,
providing a circulation study, that
Yeah,
if there's
that will
modifications,
be-
there's an
More to
extra
it.
step.
so we'll put that at the end of our motion.
Any modifications to the street layout would need to be approved by the select. board.
Prior to
Board of
review
Selectmen.
by the ZBA.
Right.
Right, and
The
so
ZBA can't
that'll
say
go
we'll approve it.
after, as a footnote at the end of the motion.
Right.
So our first part of the motion is,
Here, could you see what you have so far?
I have the proposed plan does not take into account traffic circulation, and pedestrian safety due to the confounding design of the Main and Lake intersection. That's our first objection.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about design?
Period.
And
then
now we're gonna get to number two.
Sentence
I
two.
think the
yeah.
design review committee
Got it.
got it pretty good.
Hold it, I'm
Oh,
looking.
I didn't see
Um,
that.
Do we have that printed, or is that just
Yeah.
an email?
It's there.
Yeah.
It's in the table.
Yeah, so I think what we can do is, yes, here it is, I remember
Here you
them
go.
saying. What they said is one way of doing it, but, I think we can go and put a couple of sentences in on design.
Yes,
Um,
further.
Certainly, does not
Unreasonable.
respond to its neighboring context.
Correct,
Um,
agree.
Does not respond, I don't wanna copy their words, but they said it so well.
Well, it's also scale.
Ring buildings, scale and design aesthetics. AESTHE, ticks. There was a I mean, so it's pretty big. That's the scale. Is that it?
Well, the design review committee, I'm reading everything they've got.
Right.
It's just the, well, you could, I don't know, we could just say we endorse all of the design
Every
review
point.
committee's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
I would say.
And
Okay,
then just say
so,
boom.
let's just say, it does not respond to the neighbor building scale and design aesthetics. We,
Yeah,
endorse the,
Board.
the unfavorable report of the DRC.
Mhm.
Okay, that was, so we have two
and
things.
I would just say, and then finally, and then something about, and as the planning board, with permitting authority over the CBD, we take a special, or particular
We
interest
take particular
in this
interest
gateway
in this.
building. and it
Yes,
is not
this gateway structure.
inconsistent with our goals for the
Right.
CBD.
In the
The,
neighborhood.
right, so we can also say
To Winchester.
that the proposed project is inconsistent with the,
Objectives of the center
thank you,
business district.
objectives of the center business district to which this property is a gateway.
So years ago, and Maureen, you'll remember this, that you guys had Larry Bluestone
Yep.
do
Mhm.
concept plans.
We certainly
For
did.
this area, so I don't know if you wanna
we
reference
could add that.
that in any way, I mean, I don't,
You know,
I
we're-
think,
that's
I
more
think
of when
he
we get
actually
to the select
brought the,
board.
Oh, well, well,
he
well,
brought the buildings out into the parking area, so it's in one of his
Yeah, I
schemes,
mean-
but,
There's, yeah.
I think that will do for now, and if we are sitting down with the board, I think that would be a very good thing for
Yeah.
us to bring
They
out.
don't have any break between the building and the street.
Are you
There's
saying the
no
parcels got
greenery.
extended all the way to the?
Oh, no, they do have.
There were a
landscape.
couple different options, but that was one of
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Okay, so right now what we have in front of us is we vote for unfavorable action based on, one, the proposed plan does not take into account traffic circulation and pedestrian safety due to the confounding design of the Skilling's Main and Lake intersection. Number two, does not respond to the neighboring building's scale and design aesthetics. We endorse the unfavorable report of the DRC. Number three, the proposed project is
It's
inconsistent with.
not an unfavorable report, it's a report for unfavorable action.
What?
The report is just,
It's just the minutes.
you
is
don't
what it
want
is.
it
just
to
the
be a
minutes.
modified report, just
We could-
rewrite that.
So that the report isn't negative.
The report is pretty negative on this thing.
No, no, like,
We endorse the
Bad report,
findings,
yeah.
we endorse the
The
findings
design review
of the design review committee.
with respect to this property.
Okay, I think that's implied. And last, the proposed project is inconsistent with the objectives of the center business district to which this property is a gateway, to which,
And then you would say any
That's-
modification to the street layout would need to be approved by the select board.
right.
And then Historical Commission is also in our
Yeah.
packets, and they hit it spot on.
Okay,
I think they did.
They were
I
talking
do
about
too.
the resource across the street.
It's surrounded actually by a lot of historical buildings.
Yeah. Yes.
The one at the corner of Lake and Main is 1880. Those two houses
That's
that
the
are
yellow
directly next to it are 1930s.
is this known as Cutter Village?
Actually,
I guess, oh, because of that Cutter. Okay.
what else?
Carter Village was the apartment building.
Yeah, but there's a Cutter house right next door, so, yeah, I thought the one up in North Main was the Cutter Village.
Yeah,
Okay.
one's 1900 and one's 1930, the two little houses next
Yeah.
door. And then also the one where the insurance salt marsh is, that's actually a historical building as
Yeah.
well.
That thing? Huh.
The town pantry was done in the 1970s. The Toscanos, where Toscanos is, and the service centers, those are actually historical garages from the 1920s, which
Yeah.
are very rare
Yeah,
to
they're
still be
cool.
intact, very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
But they do reflect a lot of the history of, but they're, Yeah, also add.
North Main Street.
Yeah.
yeah, but they also add to North Main Street too. So,
Well, you can say it does not respond to the neighboring historical context, so we have,
Yes, very
I
nice.
think we just
have context.
agree that we agree with the historical.
Right, so why don't we add it to number two?
So we endorse the report of the DRC and of the
Reports then.
Winchester
The-
reports.
We endorse the reports, not the findings, the reports of the DRC and the Historical Commission. And then, I think we can, so we're gonna change that to say, does not respond to the neighboring building's scale, design, and historical context.
If acceptable with the planning board, can we add unanimously support
Excuse
the
me?
findings?
Well, we're gonna vote
We're gonna
unanimously.
vote, but I'd like to put it in the word.
Well,
And to
yes.
do that,
Well,
we have to
take
put it in
the-
the
we have
word
to
and
take the
then vote
vote
for it.
first.
We gotta vote first.
Because it's very, the planning board is maybe unanimous, we have taken a vote. The historical commission's unanimous, the DCR's.
6070.
It's, yeah.
We're gonna be
Yeah, so I
unanimous,
think-
but
I
we
think it's-
can't put it in the motion because we haven't voted yet.
Oh, you know what,
You make the
also,
motion.
You make the motion.
And then
in
someone
addition
can-
to endorsing the report of the Historical Commission, and Heather Hannon's ahead of me reading this, at the time when they held their demolition delay hearing and did agree to the immediate demolition, it says that additionally, the owners may, who was, of course, it's not the
Previous owner,
current
yeah,
owner,
previous
right, now
owner.
it's the prior owner, but the owners made a commitment to the Historical Commission that any new development at the site would be compatible with the surviving surrounding historic resources, that it would reflect.
I was at that table.
You were there,
I was
okay.
there.
So I think somehow, maybe just copy paste the, just the board notes, because we don't have to just write an emotion.
Right.
Right, well, let's-
Capture all this in emotion,
Well,
but I
that's-
That
think
whole
that,
paragraph is
that
about
paragraph
materials
is
and
really
roof.
important.
It is important, but.
It's important, but it's already in
We're
here.
endorsing. the
We're endorsing
entirety of the
their
reports.
finding. I mean, I could go through and,
We can put it in the.
That's stronger than everything else, it's not a one-off.
well, I don't
thing.
know. I think that the DRCs are pretty strong too, so,
I was just
This
pointing
is
this
a
out to Maureen
commitment.
because they had promised
Yeah.
that they
Yes.
would do it a certain way.
That's important.
But
well,
it's also now, back then it was not, our zoning was not the way it is now. Now our zoning
It's
says
also,
it
I
needs to
don't
be
know if it
compatible
matters,
with
if
historical.
It
that
doesn't-
it's a different owner, I don't know how that.
it doesn't, the promises of the prior
The things that
owner
we say
are
around the
not
land.
carried forward
Yeah.
unless they're written in a
Or
contract.
in the, yeah, somehow in the deed.
So,
Well, they would be in the minutes.
but it doesn't matter, it doesn't have any,
We
there's,
can say it
there's no
doesn't matter,
legal
we can
bind,
say
there's,
it matters to us, so.
Wait, what,
We
we're
could
saying
say
it
we
matters
were
to us.
expecting something like this.
I also think it's good that the historical commission gives them reference of what is acceptable.
That's what I mean.
We can
yeah.
certainly when we write the decision, we can certainly reference key points and attach the entire,
Well,
meeting minutes for DRC and WHC.
but they already are gonna get these.
Yes.
I just think it's redundant.
That's okay.
I
It's-
don't, I'm happy.
In this,
to-
in this,
that
in this instance,
particular paragraph
I'm
to me
okay with
carries
that.
a lo-
Ordinarily, I don't like to have a lot of repetition, but in this particular
Yeah.
instance, I think it's,
Yeah, it's,
Okay, so why don't, so just so we can get out of here before I fall asleep. Which, I mean,
it's quite powerful and it's, I know.
I know, it's a powerful paragraph, but I don't know how it fits in here. We endorse the report of the DRC and,
And then it's, I
And
have been
w-
involved with like entire one page. I think this board has even people sitting at this table where you write more than just the motion and the vote. You can certainly, you can write, this is a
embellish.
letter, yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I just, if that's all we're putting in,
So
I am not going to be sitting here writing a page-long response for this property. It's just, isn't going to happen in my term because I don't have time to do that. So if we want text in here, we're just going to dump it in.
Well, I would say the planning board,
I thought we were there.
furthermore, the planning board notes in the letter of the historical commission that, and then you could just copy and paste. The owners made a commitment
Okay.
to the Winchester
I got it,
Historical
yeah.
Commission, that, and just that,
Say
that
special.
paragraph that includes the 2 to 3 story massing, wood or brick materials, and gabled or other forms of pitched roof.
So we will include that, not as part of the motion, but as
No.
part of the additional
Correct.
comment.
Correct.
So the motion as it stands, hopefully for the last time, so we can vote on this. Proposed plan does not take into account traffic circulation and pedestrian safety due to the confounding design of the Skilling's Main and Lake intersection. Does not respond to the neighboring building's scale, design, and historical context. We endorse the reports of the DRC and the Historical Commission. Proposed project is inconsistent with the objectives of the Center Business District, to which this property is a gateway. And then any modification, Brian, you have that sentence
To the
there.
street layout would need to be approved by the select board.
Well, and somewhere in the board notes.
Prior to the ZBA's review.
Street layout must
Be
be
approved by the select board
approved.
prior to
Select
any
board.
final decision by the ZBA.
Yeah.
yes.
Engineering, Brian picked up a nice thing about the gate, trying to access, the road at the high school, right?
There's
There's
a
a-
parking, right?
They have a gate on the back of their lot that is then going into the parking, which you can't see here, cause of,
coverage.
but in their plans, he picked up that they have a gate trying to access, the
Well, that should
school's
be-
land.
That should be closed off.
It should not be included. So with that also, I also agree with all the engineering's findings as well,
Yeah.
including the gate issue.
Where did you find this? Did I miss this?
Brian wrote one, it was in our packet,
Oh,
talking about FEMA regulatory flooding.
Not in the, it was in the packet that got sent to you this weekend, not in the table.
The water connection and sewer connections need to be checked, right, for the site. They should be, I think they actually need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Those are probably the lead ones that everyone's trying to.
okay.
the water.
So
But
are we,
anyway.
Try to get-
do we want to throw that in here, or are we fine with, I mean, the engineering report is, here it is. I remember this one. Do we need to include anything from the engineering report, or are we set with this motion?
Well, one of the big, why I was bringing that up is because the adequacy of the proposed screening and buffering, they currently don't have any towards the field.
Well,
except for they have a big fence.
And all that arborvitae, it's just like they
There was a comment
threw a
about
ring of
that, though.
arborvitae or something.
Well, right, but there are some,
They have comments about changing the trees in the DRC one.
Yeah, specifically the
Bigger trees that
arborvitae.
go above the height of the fence in
They,
the
yeah,
back.
but they don't have any on the back of their
Oh,
lot.
this says they're
No,
at
they
the
do.
back.
They have arborvitae's in the back along the fence.
Fence and the arborvitae's.
And then the DRC is basically saying it's the wrong type of tree because you don't
Right.
you want the coverage above the fence, you don't need,
right,
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
okay, so that's, so,
Okay, the gate is
but it's
my
still
big issue.
endorsing the report. I have anything to say, we unanimously endorse the reports of the engineering department, DRC, and the WHC.
Yep.
okay, so we're
Put
gonna,
engineering on that.
okay,
that's what- yeah.
so we're gonna put that,
Engineering department, DRC, and the WHC.
Glad he picked up that gate.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Kudos to him.
do we have a second on this motion? Do we have a first?
You need a first.
Do we have a first on this
So
motion?
moved.
Okay, Betsy's made the motion, second?
Second.
Maureen seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It apparently is unanimous.
We have A&Rs.
Somebody go to Monday night's meeting? I don't
Okay, so so we now have two A and Rs. The first A and R is 11 Canal Street.
Yeah,
I mean, I could do that if you want.
yeah.
So so Canal, as we all know, 11 Canal Street was purchased with the hopes of developing it, and I believe this is the owner's recording of current conditions.
It's
Yeah,
not
it-
for sale though, isn't it?
I don't know anything about that, I'm just looking at the clock.
I don't know what is going on with this.
This was the same situation that's,
Walk in the-
yes, so in,
The zoning as it relates to height.
Use.
Dimensionals. but-
Use.
Oh, use rather, not
it
dimensional.
freezes use, not dimensions. This is the same thing that we just did, or that we didn't do technically for
Behind
18
Sequoia.
18 to 20 Clark, as well as one other property.
He's just trying to freeze in the use.
He's
He's
freezing,
got 2 years?
freezing the use, 3 years.
3 years freezing of the use. And so we don't have to sign it, we can just
Yeah.
ignore it like we
You
did.
could not make a vote as well,
We could also not make a vote.
meaning that if you're not gonna sign it, you might as well not make a vote.
That's right.
We can just let this go through because it has
I
nothing
think
to.
it's already gone through, to be honest. It just hasn't been stamped by the clerk, meaning that the date that of application was, it's gotta be almost 20, it's like, I think tomorrow might be 21 days,
Yeah, I
so.
remember
Okay.
you told us about it. It
Yeah.
was during the morning.
Well, they had to file it prior to town meeting.
All right, what do we got here?
So what we have here is Glen Road,
This is 40 to 44 Glen Road.
and it looks like they're just tweaking it,
Right,
You know
so
why they're moving it?
probably to make room for.
it has to do with a driveway that is shared between these two parcels.
Mhm.
I do have a pen, and I think there's going to be a sale at some point soon, so they have to get it lined up,
Get it
but there's
lined
no new lots being created as
Yeah.
part of this, yeah.
I just couldn't tell when I looked at the street view why they
So
were.
I'm going to move that we endorse the A&R.
Take a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so why don't you get the
Keep
pen?
us going, Deb.
The sign.
All right, so the next one we have is, we have planning board budget.
Ah, yes.
Okay, so
I don't think I've got what I thought I had last.
Brian,
week, 'cause I did all
thank
my
you,
work
Beth.
there.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Beth.
So, Brian, our town manager, Lisa Long, and assistant town manager, Mark Toogood, and I had a conference call on Monday where we talked about the budget. The three things that, I don't know how many there are, but the things of import that came out of that discussion were, so the town manager is going to be creating the override and non-override budgets. So we are not creating that. What we are going to do is present her with a list of our needs and to prioritize them in terms of short-term needs, medium and long-term, and also to address why we need to provide a justification for them. Let's use easy words. So we had In front of you, hopefully somewhere, is the proposed,
This budget sheet,
this budget
The
sheet.
old one. So you have a new one.
yes, it should be in front of
I'm
you.
just trying to find it. 'cause
Where in
I-
the packet is it?
It's in today, it's in
It's a
your,
one page, that was in today.
it was on your, it was on the table.
Hold on.
Okay, now I've got to try and figure out where that went.
Okay,
I'll put it up here.
Yeah, if you could, because
So-
I know I had gone through it
the
pretty
key things
well.
about this budget are, we're looking at an additional planner.
How much for the planner?
So we had said 75 based upon a $55,000 salary
It's in the upper right
Which would
corner.
include
with
benefits.
roughly 20, it's roughly about $20,000 to $22,000 for the overhead for health insurance and
Okay.
something like that.
Benefits.
So we're,
So, yeah, but it would be a, most likely a newly graduated
Yeah,
planner.
I was thinking
Yeah.
around 50, that's why I was curious.
That's, so yeah, it's 50 to 55 is what we were
That
thinking.
makes sense.
But we need 75 to
Yeah,
cover
that
50 to
makes sense.
55.
right.
Exactly.
And then we had, it's unclear, it's unclear whether where a part-time grant writer would be situated, because there are obviously a lot of other benefits that the town would have, not just for planning-related grants, but, I mean,
Right.
everything from the police department to fire department, I mean, everywhere,
Everywhere.
everywhere. So,
Newton's falls under their planning department, so I always want to.
Right. I mean,
Their grant writer
That's
is
ours.
inside their
Writer
planning.
here for a few years. Mark didn't mention that?
yeah.
well, Lisa is very much, it seems to be in favor of the grant writer,
Yeah,
understands.
yeah, no, I'm in favor.
So I don't think we have to debate where it's going to fall.
Right.
Where's it gonna
We're
come
just
from?
gonna put it in our budget, and if it's ours, it's ours, or actually, if they're ours, they're ours.
And then the zoning enforcement officer, this was a little more unclear for the manager, because she was like, well, okay, so who's actually
In
doing
that
this job now? How much portion of, the building department is dedicated to this? Brian, are you doing any, and I was like, I'm kind of in the center business district, I would probably be like, that's what happens with the center business
She'll-
district.
She also pointed out that when she spoke with the building department, this was not on their list of personnel that they were looking for. I don't know what they asked for, no idea. So we have to, if we want an extra zoning enforcement officer, we need to justify why another zoning enforcement officer rather than, say, just another building department person who, so those are the things we need to justify.
Because they need more admin, I mean, they need two more, I mean, they
They
probably
need
need one
more.
and a half more people. So
Right.
they have, in terms of, non-inspectors, they have 1.5 employees. And they need probably 3 employees. They probably need another 1.5 people.
Of course, there is a job being done down there, and the question is the right, maybe if some of those hours were taken away, there would be more hours for the building commissioner's work
Sure.
under that
Sure.
title. And then, so, I'm sorry,
But-
it's a little bit fungible, I don't know what was
It-
said, but.
Well, I mean, the point is, we need to make an argument for why
Why we need another
a
person.
ZEO is the appropriate place to put the money. And I think we can make that argument because we know that the ZEO will handle some of Brian's duties, at least in terms of interfacing with the public. Certainly, we have, there are indications that we don't have enough people doing it because we know there are things they slip through after things are being built. And it would offload some duties from the building department so they could
Right, right.
concentrate.
Right.
So I think we have a strong argument,
Yep.
and you will make it stronger.
Yeah, I think maybe it might be beneficial if I go ahead and have a conversation with the town manager and kind of go through exactly where we can strengthen by having a zoning enforcement
I think
officer.
if you
And
could-
where if we got a part-time zoning enforcement officer and they took on affidavits of permit costs, which we don't do in Winchester, that alone would cover the zoning enforcement officer's salary.
I think we need this in writing. By all means, discuss that with her, but we need to come up with a memo. So this all has to go down in writing, because she's gonna be getting this information from everywhere, and so we wanna make sure it's
I mean,
on.
if you have a clear, either we could talk, why don't we just talk?
I think,
You and me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cause, yeah, I mean, I think the full-time planner and the grant writer, I think I've been documenting what I've been doing it's been now 5 months, that every day I'm documenting almost to the half hour
Yeah.
of what I'm doing. So I think there's enough ammo for saying why we need a 55K planner. I think that there's easy reasons to say why spending $28,000 on a grant writer, considering they could easily get us that much money
Yeah.
in a year guaranteed, right? I mean, that's.
Right.
if
the
they're not,
Historical
then-
Commission got 15 in their grant.
Right,
Right.
and
so because I think, okay, so if you and Brian could
So
get together and
Heather and I will
talk
talk about
about,
the ZEO in terms
Right.
of making a case for that.
By the way, I want to remind you, Lexington has a separate person. who
Right.
does that.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Right.
several of there's been a lot more other places that have development pressure similar to us. They've had this for a while.
For a while.
obviously.
right,
Quite
I think,
sometimes
we
we've had it
can,
for
we
years.
already have the data to show what other
communities are doing.
communities do in terms of their staffing, we can
Sure.
put that in there. I
But the
think,
benefits of why you would do it is
Yeah.
what she needs to hear.
yeah, she needs she
She
wants
to
to,
know what's on the ground, why do we need it, and then
Can
why
it-
do we need this rather than something else?
and can it pay for itself? I mean, that's the other thing is she's looking at the budget saying, if we bring these people in, will they actually be,
Generate additional revenue.
right?
Well, I think if anything, they would prevent potential legal issues.
Yes.
Is really what a
And
ZEO
also,
would
But
do.
there's, but there, you
zoning
know,
enforcement is,
they can do both. I mean, I think we
I think
can
it's
argue
I
both.
think there's a couple
So,
of good reasons there.
so
for it.
let's, so I think those are the three staffing people.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna talk
And-
with Heather about that.
And the planner, I know I kind of, I don't know how you feel about, if we get a planner, we need them to help you do some of your stuff, and then there's the whole bit of doing economic and housing development.
That's clearly, if I had to pick, in terms of if we were gonna have an assistant planner, that we should be focusing on, yes, economic and housing,
And is-
housing and economic
That'd be great.
development.
And is that something that you think the new planner would do, or is that something you would like to do?
I think that I would wanna hire, if I could, someone who's interested specifically in housing and economic
Okay.
development, and we would do that together.
Okay, that's cool. I just want to, I recall when we were having our discussion on Monday that,
so
I didn't
that's what you're saying,
open
but
the
I'm
door.
seeing strength that that's an area where you have developed quite a bit of knowledge in housing and I think economic development. I'm thinking that I would want a planner, but, and it's going to be a planner, but I would think that the area where as we get staff reviews and you go through, you have your matrix and everything and it's strong, but the area of urban design or architecture, so somebody who's planning background, I know what the Tufts planning degree is, it has nothing that's design related or.
No, you have to go out of your way to do that, yes.
It's not there, I've
Yeah,
seen it.
it's true.
I've looked at it, so there are different kinds of planning degrees, and a planner whose expertise or strength is in coming out of
school.
even maybe another planning office where they've been working more with historic as design and so on. So I don't know that this part-time, it doesn't change the numbers at all, but if we're.
No, I think, but it does.
Just the
I don't know if we're
description.
it
having
does
this
talk to the
conversation.
justification. It does,
For the
Exactly.
justification, to me,
It's-
that's
yeah,
the,
it's the
to me, I see it
description
over and
which-
over
which-
again when I get the reviews, and we've actually asked you just to stay clear of it, so,
Mm-hmm.
but I think eventually somebody whose strength can work, and also help, basically most historical commissions that I know of around Arlington, whatever, Brookline
Right.
and so on, Concord, Lexington, they have staff also attending, so this person could staff the historical commission, for example.
yeah, I mean, I think if we want to add that in, I mean,
Well, it
okay.
doesn't change the money, but.
Yeah,
it
Doesn't change
changes
the money.
conversation.
Probably do the job
Yeah,
description.
yeah.
It just changes the job description. It also changes,
I'm starting to think, wait a sec, folks, let's.
Well, if we,
forget-
well, I
Well-
mean, if we
Started
need
the
someone that's not,
conversation, I didn't want to just be
if we need
silent.
someone who's another paid grade above that, then maybe that's a conversation we could enter into
I
the
didn't
budget
say that.
conversation.
yeah.
It could be
But-
certainly a junior person.
So, one of the things after we get done talking about the money, which is coming next, is then we need to prioritize what things are important for short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So why don't we move now to the budget for
Professional.
professional?
Yeah, so, couple things. So I just put down all the money that if we had everything that we wanted, we would get these three things for these, we would get this much money for these three things.
Okay,
$75,000 for the master plan, that's not really a recurring, so we are short,
We're short,
75.
okay.
Yes, we have 100,000 in the bank,
Oh, I had no idea.
and then it was a $150,000 contract plus co-urbanize and other, and it's
Oh,
about
okay.
170.
Okay,
Oh, geez.
So we are short money, we knew that,
We knew
I
that.
thought we knew that.
We knew that. Well, I knew
Um,
that.
So the 75K doesn't necessarily actually go in this
In that same bucket.
budget, because it's not a recurring budget item that we're going to need. That was more of a conversation for Lisa when we were talking with her, is that we need to, most likely, this is going to be an appropriation at spring, period.
yeah, I'd read appropriation.
So that
versus-
75 won't be
versus a
there.
budget item, right.
The other two things we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some good news here. The good news is that we have somewhere around $29,000 left in our current budget that is up
In 6/30.
in June 30.
Right.
We could do a North Main Street project this fiscal year, period. We can do it. We can just say,
Been
we
asking
could just
for
say
it.
we're not.
I've been asking
No,
for it.
No, what I'm
Yes.
saying is we don't have to shift any money around. We have to not do any other projects with that money.
That's the key point, is we
And
won't have,
maybe we need 10K for something, I don't know, but the
Yeah, we
point
asked the
is
select board
that
to tap into
there's
it.
like 30 or 29.8 or 30.
We could ask the
But-
selectmen even on this
but
one.
I know that's a great idea, but that doesn't get us to the budget.
No, well, it's the point is that do we need this 30,000 for next year for the North Main, or should we just do the 30,000 that we have?
One of the questions that came up during our discussion was, Lisa took a look at what we had been spending on consultants and said.
Not a lot.
Not a lot, so why are you asking for 30K when it looks like you're only spending, what was the number, 17K in FY18? Actual was 17K, so why are you asking for twice as much as you've actually used?
We're behind?
Well, that's the right answer, but
That's the right
it needs
answer,
a
but you
little
have to
bit
be able to
more.
back that
But
up.
the point is that we need to justify that money, and so,
I'm saying,
That'll
I'm
go
saying that
fast.
it's possible that, first of all, we wouldn't say that we need 30,000 for North Main Street for next fiscal year if we are going to be doing it now.
we would, I think that it would be wise to set aside some of our existing 29K in case we run into some design.
Well, we still don't wanna run into a situation
Where we don't-
where we don't use the money again.
Right,
It'll be
no,
2 years
I
in a
don't,
row.
I don't disagree with that, but in a sense, it's still not getting to the budget question, which is, how much money are we going to ask for in our budget? Are we gonna ask for 35K again?
I think it would be
Or we're gonna ask for more?
35, I think it would be 35 for normal run, business, meaning that
Right,
we
run-of-the-mill,
should be
yeah.
spending that much money, period. And then an extra 15 for this on-call design professional, which would be 45 or
Oh.
50
Yeah,
total.
we really have-
The other issue, which Lisa may not be aware of, is the professional services. We were also carrying it for legal counsel.
Right.
And so what happened is there was,
We had a whole bunch of it, and then.
we had a lot of it, and then they picked up art, so then we were able to let that go back into the kitty. But now we have other things, and we already had appropriated the funds for for the Center Business District and all that. So, that's why you're seeing that
That's
one
right.
year
Bubble
where
centers,
art came
those
on,
are-
and we had the extra.
Right,
And we had the Center Business District was under contract
But
and
we
already
don't
paid
wanna-
for in prior years.
But we just don't wanna have, even if it's a legitimate situation, I
It
don't wanna be left over with $25,000 in our bank.
understood. But, so Heather's talking to her justification
Yeah.
as to.
Yes, that's what she
So-
needs to
so-
understand is what
Right,
happened.
so we're gonna come up with the justification, and this doesn't have to be in until January 11th.
Right.
So we have a couple of weeks to make sure we get all of these points in. But getting back to it, so if we spend 30K for North Main Street, and
When?
we can certainly start spending it this year, I still would like to have something held back just in case.
For what?
I don't know, that's why.
Because we'd go
Well,
for
that's, well, that, well, that's the thing,
53G.
because at that point, you take that additional amount, and that's part of your appropriation for the following year.
It doesn't roll over.
We have 53G if
No,
an instant
no,
comes
no, but- No,
up.
but you could put it in there and say, by the way, we had this money left over. I mean, you have to be honest with the town meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do have to ask. So it's possible
That's
to
all I'm
roll
saying.
over, but it's not necessarily looked highly upon.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've
so,
encumbered when we didn't have a planner. I've gone through the
Absolutely.
process of encumbering. That's not.
Absolutely,
No,
right,
just
you
need to
did it,
have a
I did
reason.
well,
it.
if the majority of the board feels like we can spend all of our cash on North Main Street, then that's fine.
Well, I want to make sure we do, because I saw it or understood it as seed money, and you said you have spoken to Dennis, you said in the past 3 weeks or so, he would be available if we wanted to do.
He did not give so much as a commitment to that effect.
Okay,
Right.
I would like us to,
Well, we've got to deal with, if we've got design issues and we've got 53G out there, my understanding from him was we ought to have, be able to bring the consultant in and that, so they can get going, because we've seen how the process works. You get the drawings before you're even ready to have your hearing.
well, I would like to open this up to more than just Dennis.
I'm fine with that.
And I don't know how we do that and have two people on call,
Well, that's an issue.
and that's an issue. So I think we
Yeah,
need,
don't have that much.
we don't,
Depending upon how
Right.
wonderful they would want to just have the opportunity to work here.
and there's also, yeah, I'm still a little confused as to how you say, how the consultant says, well, I'll only do it for 30K or some set amount of money, but if it's not done over a certain period of time, so you say, okay, great, so
Like
we'll
if there's
give you,
only X amount of reviews,
so
right?
I'll give you, I will pay you 30K in 5 years, and they'll say, so I don't know how that's supposed to work. Well, that's something Brian, I think, should do, because he speaks the language more than I do. So let's find out, so do we want more than 30K, or are we fine with 30K just for general consultants?
Yeah, I mean,
We're gonna
I think
set aside the
erase this North
15K.
Main Street, and it's, what do we use 30K for, is, that should be running business as usual. We dropped 10K with doing the Highland Ave design review.
Right.
When we asked Dennis to look at that.
Right.
We kinda get stuck with that bill, to be honest, that was, but, that was 10K for 2.5 weeks' work.
Yeah,
So there was no 53G involved, and how do we know that's not gonna happen again? So I think the idea of, I erase this North Main Street and just say 30K that we need for professional services, we should clearly start using some of this money that we have this year, starting mid-January.
absolutely.
We should try to get someone
Well,
under
I want to say what
contract.
I'd like to do, and it's to, if you want to be specific, it's all the better when you're putting in anyway. I'd like to get an urban designer in here, and I don't care if it's not Dennis. I mean, I like Dennis, just don't want to confuse that, but I want to get somebody in here and have some kind of urban design vision that starts with that gateway that looks so lousy and start drawing.
Well, that's what this on-call design professional is. That's not, we're not calling that as professional
I'm
services.
talking about North Main Street.
Because
That's part
what
of
we
the-
have to do, we have to go on North Main Street, and we have to deal with some of the zoning right away, right? So whether
Yes.
it's, we turn things from special permit, site plan review to special permit, we look at the height,
Correct. Yeah.
we look at
Well,
parking,
so that's
minor
the-
changes right
Right,
now.
right, but that's.
So that's the North Main
but-
Street
but
project.
budgetarily, but from a budget perspective, basically, it's sort of two different things. So you were talking about the additional person, right?
Yep.
And that would not be that, but that would be something you say, fine, here's a project that you bring to the town meeting under a separate line, and there it is.
that's another way of doing it.
So the stuff I
Well,
would
I mean,
do
I've
better-
done a few
that
budgets.
person
Yeah,
I
yeah,
assume-
no,
No?
For that,
For the zoning stuff, if mostly we're looking at, we
It depends.
review what the CBD zoning is, and I think mostly just see how much we like it. I think
Well,
we
that's
would
why I
be
thought-
doing it with Brian.
I thought Dennis actually might be the good person, because he's
Oh,
the
he could be.
cohesive,
He could
because
do
we're
it.
trying to
He
get
could do it.
this.
That's
So,
true.
so we can focus back on the
Yeah.
budget. So we've all agreed that North Main Street will get some sort of a plan with some large chunk of the money we currently have.
Well, that's why I was going to this, because it doesn't have to be the
I know,
full
I know.
zoning, rezoning of GBD 2 and 3 at this point. We want to wait actually to the
Yes.
master plan for that. But we do need someone to look at the CBD
Wait, she's taking that away.
Oh, here, yeah.
and things that we can do to make that, small
So-
things we can do. So it wouldn't be all that money at this point. That's what I'm trying to say, is instead of doing a full revamp of GBD 2 and 3, we do certain things that kind of keep it more in line with the CBD at this point until we can get
So
the master plan.
what I would want to do is have a conversation with Jennifer Goldson
Yep,
about options, whether it's with them
No.
as
it
part
loo-
of
it
this
looks
process
wonderful.
now,
It looks wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
or whether
trying
it's
to
a
illustrate
different
it.
but I think we need a little bit of direction in terms of what actually needs to happen there. Are we talking about changing zoning? Are we talking about,
Yes,
I
we've
mean-
gotta do it.
Okay, but that's not part of a budget discussion. That's part of
no, it
a,
is, that's what
It
we're
is,
talking
it
about.
is.
It is.
but we've
part of-
already decided we're going to do that.
so.
The question is, are we
How
going?
much?
But-
Okay, I think I got it. How about that? I think,
Okay,
I
so-
think I have it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start using some of our professional services money after the new year in order to, whether it's doing an RFP for a larger contract or just a $10,000 contract, doing some work related to North Main with input from Jennifer Goldson.
Yeah,
We will then be asking for $30,000 for professional services to do the level, to keep us going, actually, or 30 or 35, no, keep it 35, with saying just professional
Okay.
services. Some of that could be North Main Street, some of that could be special projects. And then we ask for 15 for an on-call design professional for a total of
Correct.
$50,000 for
Okay.
professional services, period.
That's the number I want us to get to. Okay, so we're done with that.
Okay, sorry that,
that's where we're going.
All I care
That's what
about
we're
is the 35K plus the 15K.
But we had to have a plan.
Right.
We're talking about the
I
plan.
think,
Okay,
I think I'm ready.
well, we still have to, we were also asked to talk about priorities. So if we have a choice between a full-time planner,
So we're
and-
back up to
Right.
positions.
so which one will have the greatest immediate impact? So if it has to get phased in, or we only get one piece of pie instead of two, which piece of pie do we want sooner?
The planner,
The
Over
planner.
the zoning enforcement officer?
no, that's a tough one.
I would take
I-
the zoning enforcement
I
officer.
have
Me
to say
too,
that's
me
not
too.
our
I think-
budget, though, that's the thing.
That's
I mean,
it's a
it's not
it's a
our
question for
budget.
it's a question for the manager, not necessarily for us.
It's not a-
But
the
we-
question is-
We were asked to say, you have these three things, you have a magic wand,
Which
what's
do you want?
priority 1, 2, and 3?
Zoning enforcement, it's just we've got to me,
Absolutely.
it's a different I heard you say it too, but it's a different
It's a different skill set.
Expertise.
expertise,
Right.
yes.
Well, I have to respectfully disagree. I think we need a planner more than we need a zoning enforcement officer. Well, unfortunately, that Heather left. Which way do you go on this, Betsy?
It's just an older saw. The select board's with us too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, frankly, I think some of our zoning enforcement has been weak, and I think we need to shore that up. I really do. Because we do all the work to get the great zoning done, but then if it's really not getting enforced, that's a genuine issue.
Well, my argument for getting a planner is that
We're also tired. You've got 3 people who sing.
my argument is that in order for us to move forward with anything new in terms of zoning, other than just patching things up, we need someone focusing, and also getting more economic development going. We need someone focused on that. And I think that, I guess, is a longer-term plan.
Yeah, because I know that.
But if all we get out of this is a half-time ZEL,
It's huge, though. We do all this work, and it's tons of work to get to the point where it's passed by the town meeting, 2/3 vote. And then we watch how something crazy like Shore Road plays out. It's
I-
just, it's a handoff process,
Right.
and the handoff isn't working.
And
And
that-
it won't until we get a different profile, a different area of, I'll call it expertise in there. The background is completely different.
The other thing that the zoning enforcement officer will do, that currently is not, would be the chaser, right? So if there's conditions and
Right.
everything put on these
Mhm.
permits
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
the building officer
Yeah.
will sign off, the zoning enforcement officer has to sign off saying
Yeah.
that they met all those criteria. So it's not, it's also including making sure that.
Right.
no, I understand.
Planning,
No,
zoning,
I
historical.
understand all that.
issues.
I guess
Okay.
I just,
Well, you've heard us, it's late.
you've heard me, I've heard you.
And I think it'll free Brian up just a little
I do
bit
too.
I just-
at this point, so we get a little bit of two.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna, if we have to rank these things, I think we can all agree that the grant writer comes in for free. And the reason I say not for free, but since it's useful to everyone else in town hall,
Yeah.
I don't think we have to make a stronger case for a planner. You can say the next one would be the part-time ZEO
Mhm.
over my objections, and then the full-time planner.
Mhm.
And, sheesh.
Wait a minute, so one would be grant writer?
I
Is that
think,
what
the-
you're saying? Because that's like a no-brainer?
The
That's a
grant writer is
no-brainer.
not even, it's just a
Well,
townwide.
everyone can benefit.
Everybody-
everyone would benefit, so that's a no-brainer.
Everybody wins.
Then
Pay
I
for
guess
themselves.
you could say the ZEO is next, and then the town planner, which,
I'm not sure I'm putting grant
Right.
writer at number one. I'm letting somebody else carry that
Yeah,
I put them at 3.
bucket of water.
yeah, something that everybody will use, and that's sort of non-rebuttable, and even though it's at the bottom of the list, it's,
Yeah.
Because for ours, if
I
we
think
got a
that's a good point.
full-time planner, we can always have the full-time planner work on the grant writing.
we're
if
not
really
gonna
want
get
to.
a full-time planner. We're gonna get a part-time ZEO, because they're cheaper.
I'll take it right now.
Well, we might get,
Get half
we
and
might
half.
get a part-time planner.
We might get a
I
part-time
mean,
ZEO.
I have a feeling,
Full-time isn't essential. I would like it.
Yeah.
but,
yeah.
well,
we
I mean,
started with
there certainly
Betsy
has been
Ware, some of us
a
go
lo-
back that
there
far
certainly has been a lot
as
of
part-time.
talk and, at town meeting, basically looking at comparable communities.
Right.
So it's not out of nowhere that we would get either a half or a full-time planner. A ZEO, people are like, what is that?
Okay,
Don't you
so,
think?
so why don't we do it this way?
Actually, I don't.
People keep asking about
I
zoning
know,
enforcement.
people, I know, I
They
get,
don't
I
know
get,
what
I
that
get,
person
I
does.
They
get
don't know
calls
what
on the
it's
phone about it.
All right.
So I would suggest then we put in half-time ZEO, half-time planner, full-time planner, and then the grant writer is an asterisk.
Yeah,
Yeah, asterisk, exactly.
With 2 being a full-time and 3 being a half-time planner?
One
First
is,
priority is ZEO, a part-time ZEO.
then the next would be a full-time planner.
Right,
Correct.
and then
Then
3 would be a
half-time.
part-time planner.
The 3 would be part-time.
Okay. All right, I think I'm
I register my objections, but
there.
that's been
Okay.
registered.
Sorry.
Okay, now we have to talk about our priorities for money. So we have 35K plus 15K. The master plan is a high priority, she knows that, so we'll ask for that as
Finish
a
off.
special appropriation. If we had to ditch, I say 35K is first and 15K is second.
Yeah, we gotta have that 35K.
We
We're
gotta
not
have
going-
that
We're not getting less
35K.
than 35K for professional services again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know that there's much to say we want both.
We can't,
15K isn't
if
gonna
you had
break.
to pick, I would say the 35, because you could
Yeah.
obviously use that for an
Yeah.
on-call design professional, and then the other 20 would be for professional services.
Yeah, and I still would like to get someone to come in and clean up our zoning, word processing, but we should talk to Mary
That's a
Ellen about
different,
that.
that's a townwide issue
That's a
though for a
townwide
lot of things. A lot of our documents should be up online.
Yeah, but ours is personal, because it's
It is,
ours,
'cause it's
so I
ours.
really
Well,
want to
you
get
do
it
take
done.
it personally, that's true.
Okay, so I think we've made all the decisions on that. So what else is there to
There
do?
was potential hearing procedures, but I'm,
We're not there. I
There,
was
right.
asked to talk to Art about the hearing procedures. I have not done so.
In your travel, you have $500. We had wanted you to travel outside of state.
Mhm.
$500 will not cover you in that.
And we're not talking about
I usually go
Connecticut.
to, there's the Southern
Yeah.
New England that's in Rhode Island or whatever. I do that usually once a year, and
We want you to travel. We
Yeah.
want you to go out to San Fran. No, I'm kidding. No, we want you to go to one of the big conventions that are nationally.
Yeah, I mean, the APA convention's all over the country every
Yeah.
year, so.
Yeah.
So, but the $500 won't cover it.
We want to bump that up to 3K,
Okay,
because there's no way you can go without, I mean,
You
between,
need room, board, and your flight.
yeah, plus, so that's around 3K.
Is that okay with you? But that was part of our review when we talked about things we wanted to.
Yeah.
yeah. I
We,
mean,
we talked about lots, we have to do a 6-month, do we have to re-review you?
no, you
Yeah,
don't.
no,
You-
let's not.
Fortunately, you don't.
Okay, good, but we need to have a 6-month review and see, make sure that all those boxes are getting
I
checked.
am dying. It's 3.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
I-
Oh my
5.
God.
Heather's
Yes.
left.
Your books and
That's fine.
periodicals, that won't cover the code.
The code,
It won't
We-
cover it.
this is our last meeting before the 8th, so we need to get this done.
That won't cover your code, so you need to bump that out.
No, we're meeting on the 17th,
Yeah, but we're not talking about anything on the
not on the
17th.
budget.
Right, so let's,
Sure.
I don't know
So-
what the cost of it is off the top of my head, but that $100 will not cover the cost to get the current building code.
okay,
And then I want, the travel needs to be bumped up, so you can actually go to more of the,
Although I will say that if it's a burden for Brian, that there's certainly New England conferences
Mhm.
or New
Right.
York or whatever.
I don't think they are a burden for him. I think it's just not budgeted for, just 'cause
Well-
that's what you just
If
said.
we
is-
put it in the
You're-
budget,
you
Put it in the
Brian will,
budget,
Say it, I
then,
will go.
Brian will either use it or not, and if he doesn't use it,
Then we'll
then it's
take
a
it
burden.
out, but-
So we bumped the travel to 3K, we bumped the,
Okay.
books and
I've seen it.
periodicals to how much? 5K?
no, no.
No, it's 100
It's
right
like-
now, but,
It's 100, but the building code that you're talking about is like 250 or something?
yeah, it's like a
Okay.
$300
It's 300
purchase.
Let's say 300,
So bump it up to 450,
okay.
because you, obviously you're spending something on your building. You spent 220 in 2018,
Yeah, I don't know why about that, I'll have to look at that.
probably bought a phone book. Okay, and I think the rest is pretty much
There's
it.
nothing really there.
Brian and I talked about if we actually got another body in the office, whether we'd have, and all of those expenses in terms of, computers and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
except for phone, are covered by the town.
IT, yeah.
Okay,
So we would only have to get a new phone in.
okay, that's not too bad,
And that's 300K, so that's not a big deal.
yeah.
So I guess that's it for the budget. So, to follow up on this, so Heather and Brian, you're gonna talk about the benefits of a ZEO.
Yep.
Yeah,
Brian, can you put together a memo on the budget by say next Friday? So you could circulate it to the board, and then we can take a look at it, and we just need to get it out, to the town manager by the 11th, but if we got it there sooner, I don't think that would be,
yep. Other thing with the ZEO is, when they don't meet the requirements, then the town has to come in and pay for it. So if they
Yes.
don't put the
Right.
curbs in, we're paying for the curbs to come in. If they
yeah,
don't,
I mentioned that in our discussion, because it
Yeah.
happened near me, so, yeah.
yeah,
And that was an aha moment, I believe,
yeah. Or the DBW is paying for a lot of the,
or they just don't put it in.
or it's a safety issue.
They don't put it
So,
in near me,
a
'cause-
memo about the budget in terms of priorities and all of this, right?
Yeah, essentially, we want to have the final thing that we would, something that looks like the final thing we would give Lisa.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah.
It's
You're saying
just-
by next Friday?
Yeah, if you can't do that, I mean, we don't need it,
Do we need to vote this in?
Not yet.
I
Okay.
mean, you can just take a look at the town meeting book, and because those reflect the recommendations that are getting made by the finance committee,
right.
Okay.
so.
Which town meeting pays attention to when they want to and ignores when they want to.
Meeting is fine, the finance committees were the excellent.
Yeah, I'm just saying that town
No,
meeting
but that's the point,
ignores the
is like
finance
get it into
committee
that
when it's
kind of
politically
format.
okay to, and then
Finance person, I mean,
says,
it's-
oh, but they said so when they want to. Anyway, I think we are done with our agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to retire?
Motion to adjourn.
Betsy made the motion, Heather will second. Let's just say, all in favor? Aye. And we're out of
I
here.
don't think anyone's gonna oppose this one.
Yeah, okay. So, okay.
Wow, am I tired.
Joined, that housing meeting at the library starting
Yeah.
at 6.
Heather, or Betsy moved for adjournment, and Heather seconded.
The one that,
Motion.
the test officer, that Alan
I don't
Rogers
know,
has been
you know,
organized.
unfortunately, these guys are not receptive.
Try to create a vehicle for the town to get dealing more with
HDP.
development.
Oh, so you've been at meetings since 6?
Everybody was invited.
No, I know, I just,
Housing
I
Corporation meeting was
had,
pretty
my
interesting.
kids' Cub Scout meeting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Don't worry about it.
Someone from the MHP was there, Susan Connolly.
She was.
She was good. She knows her law. And it was a very good, maybe we can get motion on getting the Housing Trust Fund. Okay, so now we just have to turn these off.
Everything's just money.
Well, and it's control.
How does this turn off?
I think we plug it into there and the lights go on. These don't individually turn on. But I think we plug them into there when they